I call the meeting to order and welcome everyone to the City of Kalispell's May 20, 2024 Council meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilor Gabrielle.
Here.
Councilor Graham.
Here.
Councilor Dowd.
Here.
Councilor Dahlman.
Here.
Councilor Fisher.
Here.
Councilor Hunter.
Here.
Councilor Nunnally.
Here.
Councilor Carlson.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Dahlman, can you lead us?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have our agenda in front of us. I'll look to council for approval of the agenda. Mr. Nunnally.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Dowd. I think I heard that from all the way over there first. All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. The first item are the council minutes from the May 6, 2024 meeting. And the second item is ordinance 1920, the second reading, Radosevich zoning. This item considers annexation and zoning of RA1 residential apartment for property located at 255 3 Mile Drive. Is there any public comment on either of the 2 items on the consent agenda? Right now? Okay. The individual on Zoom, you have your hand raised for the consent agenda.
Sir, are you going to comment on the consent agenda? With your hand raised on Zoom?
Okay. Look to council for a motion on the consent agenda. Mr. Dowd,
Your Honor, I move the consent agenda as published.
Second.
second. Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Can I have a roll call vote?
Councilor Gabrielle.
Aye.
Councilor Graham.
Aye.
Councilor Dowd.
Aye.
Councilor Dahlman.
Aye.
Councilor Fisher.
Aye.
Councilor Hunter.
Aye.
Councilor Nunnally.
Aye.
Councilor Carlson.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye, motion carries. We have 3 committee reports this evening. The first would be the Tourism Business Improvement District Work Plan and Budget. Who wants to present that?
Am I started? Yeah. Can you all hear me? All right. I'm just glad everybody came out to hear me talk. My name is Bryce Baker. If you don't know me, I'm the Vice President of Operations for a hotel company that has 8 hotels in Montana, 2 in Kalispell, my place in the Spring Hill. I'm representing both today. I'm also the chairman of the TBID. I apologize. I've been super sick for like a week, so you're lucky to see my face. So I apologize about my voice. A little bit about this, and question and answer is totally fine with me as well. We're looking to propose a $2 increase to our TBID assessment from $2 to $4. Last time we did a assessment increase was in 2012, obviously 12 years ago, with a numerous factors. We're looking at the cost of marketing has increased in the last 2 years over 150%. I mean, in the last 5 years, it's more than doubled. It's just a huge amount of money that's being spent to market our area, and our dollars just aren't going as far. So we need more money to effectively market, specifically to our direct flight markets. We're looking at some of the areas like LA that's running year-round flights, so we can drive that winter business. We're also looking at Dallas and some of the other areas, but those direct flight markets are super important to our industry and to also other people flying in and out of Kalispell. One of the areas that we really want to focus on is our sports tourism. We have some amazing facilities here, kids sports. We have other areas like FECC for conventions. Besides the hotels, we want to be able to effectively market and be able to gain market share into those areas. We want to host more sporting events. We want to host more soccer tournaments, baseball tournaments, those types of things that drive families to Kalispell. From me personally, I'm a soccer dad. I would much rather spend my hard-earned money here than traveling to Spokane and Seattle and going all over the place. So that's one of the areas that we really want to focus on. Another reason we lost the Spartan race, which I'm sure you are all aware of. Spartan race decided to go to Bozeman, right outside of Bozeman. It's a $1 million impact to our area from the first weekend of May every year. I think it was about 8 to 10 years that we had that. So that's no longer a thing. It will never come back as far as we know. So we need to find a different foundation event to gain something like that. We used to be able to spend $20,000 or $30,000 and be able to get a massive event. We can't do that anymore. It's between $50,000 and $100,000 to even be able to move the needle. So again, it just comes down to, unfortunately, needing more money, and just our dollars just don't go as far as they used to. One of the other things is, unfortunately, our room demand is down. It's down across all market segments, and it's down across all the times of the year. We talk about Kalispell always being super busy during the summer. It is busy, but there's rooms to sell every single night. If you look at the combined hotels, right, there's definitely hotels that sell out. But we have room for movement. Our room demand has decreased since the peak in 2021, and we need to continue to develop different strategies to be able to sell rooms. So that's kind of my spiel. Did I forget anything? Do you guys have any questions for me before Diane takes over? Perfect. Thank you all very much.
Good evening. Diane Medler, Executive Director of Discover Kalispell. So as Bryce said, marketing Kalispell continues to be the cornerstone of what we do, but it's equally vital to address the challenges that our community has experienced imposed by growth. We're committed to integrating a destination stewardship and management and development efforts to support our local businesses and ensure sustainable growth and prosperity for our mountain town and tourism economy. So this outlines our focus of our organization operations. Destination marketing, as I've said, remains the key strategy. For the TBID portion of the budget, Discover Kalispell is supported by both TBID and bed tax funding. Both of those funding streams support one marketing plan for cohesiveness and effective ROI. For TBID, the two segments that we primarily focus on are the destination marketing and destination development. So destination marketing, we work to build a strong year-round tourism economy. We have been and continue to focus on increasing visitation during non-peak periods while maintaining a balanced visitation level for the peak period. We really use very targeted marketing that messaging that using predictive triggers. So what that means, one example of that could be for winter, you can advertise with AccuWeather. When it's snowing in Kalispell, the people who go on AccuWeather are served up an ad, it's snowing in Kalispell, conditions are great, come ski. So that's just one example where if you do this, then you're served up this ad that really speaks to what they're looking for and what they're planning for. As Bryce said, there is still capacity. Our average annual occupancy in 2023 was 58%. And we still have capacity, particularly between October and April, and that average occupancy for that period was 41%. So we're also looking to reach regional visitors in our drive market, invest in sales and marketing campaigns directed to the sports and group travel segment. And you'll see on there how we define a high-value visitor. It's not their individual financial worth. It's those who stay in Kalispell more than one night, interested in that fall, winter, and spring travel, are respectful of natural resources, interested in supporting local businesses, and so on. So I won't go too deep into this, but just so you understand, our marketing initiatives reach people in three different levels. So one is awareness. How do we increase awareness of the Discover Kalispell and the Kalispell brand? And then once they engage with the brand, we move them into that consideration set. So we educate and build preferences to drive traffic to the website to really help them start drilling down on what they could do when they come to Kalispell, where they could stay. And then intent. Once we've fully grabbed them, then we serve up, how to book your stay, the restaurant guide, QR codes that lead to restaurant menus, and making reservations, to booking activities with a guide. We really promote guided activities so that people do recreate responsibly. Here are just some examples of some really hands-on tools that we use in that last phase. So if you are, we have the Wander Map. It's Kalispell's map app. It's on our website. It's also downloadable as an app. Really helps you explore and discover things to do in Kalispell and the area. Our Town and Trails Pass and Winter Wonderland Pass are designed to get people to explore particularly downtown businesses, but also local trails and activities. And the more stops they make, then they can be entered to win prizes. So the Destination Stewardship and Management segment, it really serves to balance the needs of the community with a healthy visitor economy. So our visitor services and communications are key to that, so visitor management. So we want to educate the visitors before they come and when they're on the ground. How to recreate responsibly, where to go, be kind, support local businesses, tip your servers. And that includes, event calendars, restaurant guides, all those very specific items. Also includes community projects. So we do trail and water cleanup. We promote volunteerism. So we promote to potential and in-market visitors how they can give back to this special place. They see this as a very special place. They know Montana's special. They know our area is special. And a lot of those people want to give back. So whether it's Glacier Institute had a cleanup day, FWP had a trail cleanup day on Wild Horse Island. What a great experience that was, right? The Flathead Rivers Alliance has river cleanup events. So we're working with our land manager and other volunteer trail partners. Anytime they can schedule an event, we're there to promote that and encourage our visitors to give back. We're also, we deliver accurate and up-to-date information during any crises. So whether that's wildfires or wildfire smoke coming from other areas, whether that's low snow levels, although not a crisis, it definitely impacted visitations and business for our local shops and restaurants. But we partner with a large group of collaborators so that we are presenting a cohesive message to our visitors and residents when really needed, particularly during those crisis times. So destination development. So that's where we focus and dedicate on the TBID budget a big segment of the funding to secure group business and support development of community assets. So we have a sales plan to grow the sports tourism marketing, working with current and future sports venues and clubs. We support, work with our local youth sports organizers, particularly to help them through financial support or other means to host their tournaments here in Kalispell. We're looking to drive growth in the M&C meetings and convention segment, strategically maximizing utilization of our TBID conference facilities, but also other large venues. Attending trade shows for events, sports, and group business that provide direct contact with planners. So the FY25 budget, you see the segments that increased as a percent of budget for FY25 are marketing and development. The segments that actually decreased as a percent of budget in FY25 are admin and staffing. And the rest of the segments remained pretty flat. So some trends. we just got April data this morning, and April occupancy was 45%. This was a tough winter, as you'll see by that blue line. Business was slow. Also want to point out that one of our properties has been closed since January due to repairs. And unfortunately, their reporting of zero occupancy is included in this and has impacted our data some. But regardless, it was a very slow winter. So this shows you how occupancy trends comparing short-term rentals for county, short-term rentals in 59901, short-term rentals in city limits, and hotels. So it's always an interesting trend. So as I said, hotel occupancy in April was 44%. The Kalispell City short-term rentals occupancy was 41%, excuse me. So slightly down from last month. We are seeing a slowing in the increase of available listings for short-term rentals in Kalispell city limits, according to our data, and also a decrease in occupancy in ADR. So it seems like there's some shifting going on there. Total available listings for April in the city, the available listings are 120, which is a slight uptick from last month, but a 10% increase year over year. So I just said it was slowing. I didn't say it was down, but it is slowing. We're not seeing such a high percentage of increase of available listings each month. Continue to see increase in one-bedroom listings, although this through March it was down slightly. Some of those are hotel rooms, but not all. But we are seeing more of an increase now in the two-bedroom and three-bedroom. So trends we're watching. Here's our FY24 current fiscal year revenue. You'll see that although summer was solid, late fall, October was very strong, but November, December were slow. And as we already saw, the January through March quarter was down. Our room supply was decreased between January and March, available room supply, low snow levels. And also looking at national travel trends, they indicate that the cost of travel and uncertainty of personal finances continues to impact travel plans. So 38% of those surveyed of American travelers feel that travel is too expensive right now. And also there's the option to travel internationally. So from some destinations, getting a flight to Europe costs a lot less than it does to get a flight to Kalispell. Mm-hmm. So now that international travel has opened up, we're continuing to normalize since the peak of 21 and 22, which is a good thing. That's fine. But there's just this shifting between the economy, international travel, the winter conditions. So we're just going through some shifting, so demand is down. Here's a sneak peek of some FY25 creative. We really like the symmetry of Kalispell bound, of being spellbound by this amazing place. So you'll see more of this to come in our marketing for FY25. Thank you. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next committee would be Kalispell Business Improvement District.
Mayor Johnson, Council, I am Marshall Noyce, and we own a building at 127 Main Street in downtown, and I'm here tonight as the longest tenured member of the Kalispell Business Improvement District. And let me begin by thanking you for decades of support of our efforts. It's great to know that we have a council and a mayor who believe in downtown and support the work that we're doing. Our goal is to make downtown Kalispell a better place to do business, a better place for property owners to own property and ensure that downtown Kalispell remains the heart and soul of the Flathead Valley. This year has been a year of change, more change than in any recent year, in that our longstanding executive director, Pam Carbonari, retired, and we have her position with the very capable Jamie Keller. We're extremely fortunate to have someone of her experience and ability move into that position, and she is doing a great job for us. She recently met many of the property owners in downtown Kalispell. We had a spring mixer recently, and it was great to see how well she was received by other property owners from downtown. And I'm very pleased to say that the Business Improvement District got good reviews and high grades from the property owners who are taking care of the expenses that are incurred by the Business Improvement District. So we're glad to have Jamie on board. She's doing a great job. We also, we turned our long-standing downtown ambassador, Paul Fessel, over to the city of Kalispell. He's now working for you and not working for us anymore. And we have Richard Dilka, who has taken on his responsibilities. And Richard is an enthusiastic advocate for downtown Kalispell. I have talked to few people who love our town as much as Richard does, and he'll be a great ambassador for us and will, without a doubt, be up early and staying up late to make sure that those flowers are watered when they need to be watered. We've had a few programs that we're proud of this year that are new. We've undergone a rebranding effort, and the document that we gave to you guys earlier, we sent you a draft document of this a month or so ago that you had a chance to look at. And I think you all have the final document in hand. That was done in conjunction with the Kalispell Downtown Association. We're very fortunate to have really good working relationships with other organizations in downtown that are dedicated to the health of our community, the Kalispell Downtown Association being one of those. Another being the TBID, Discover Kalispell, awarded the BID a grant of $5,000 this year to help with the expenses that we incurred in buying new holiday decorations. So having that partnership is really gratifying. And I don't think the Kalispell Chamber ever has a meeting where they do not mention the Kalispell Business Improvement District and the efforts that we're making on behalf of all of us who care about downtown Kalispell. Being the most senior member on the board, I am the lucky individual who gets to talk about the fun stuff. And now I will turn it over to Gabe Merriman, who will talk to you about the important stuff. Are there any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for having us here. I'm Gabe Merriman. I reside on 6th Avenue East. I own a manufacturing facility, brewery, restaurant, Bias Brewing on Main Street. And when we presented last year, we talked about the need to keep a balanced budget to carry over a surplus of funds into the next year. We haven't changed, though costs have gone up, we haven't changed our expenses drastically this year. They're virtually the same as they were last year. We've got $135,000 in revenue, and I can go through those in detail if you'd like, but we're carrying over a surplus of about $15,000. We're working on, we have a new executive director, we have our downtown ambassador. Those are the two biggest cost buckets that we do have. But then we've undergone this branding, which is very exciting. There's a lot of change going on, and we feel like we should change with the time. We have development activity. The facade improvement grants will give out two $5,000 facade improvement grants as we continue to help people upgrade their storefronts and keep Kalispell a beautiful place to walk from storefront to storefront. We had the expenses of the holiday lighting, so we're continuing to put up and take down the lighting and maintain that lighting. It does get worn. It's sitting on a street that gets 20,000 or so cars rolling past it every day. We're putting out the summer flowers and taking care of those summer flowers. We've actually contracted with a new company that we're using this year to help keep costs competitive. Are there any details you would like to ask questions about? We're keeping a balanced budget. We're rolling a surplus forward. We're being responsible with the funds that we administer. And we're doing these in a way that we feel impacts the downtown business owners and the people that operate businesses downtown.
Mr. Mayor, the only question I have is any capital, I mean, we're carrying over funds?
Yep.
Anything you're looking at in the next few years capital-wise?
There are so many projects we would like to work on. We really want to see cohesivity between the park line and the historic downtown bid area, which touches the park line in a small section. So having cohesivity and working with other organizations to take care of does it flow for the tourist? We'd like to increase the facade improvement grants, both in value and in number that we can hand out. $5,000 doesn't do what it used to do. 4 years ago, $5,000 went quite a bit further. And so we're working hard to be diligent with the funds we do have and spend them in ways that are impactful. And I think one way would be the facade improvement grant. If we could increase the number that we give out and the total that we're giving, it would be more impactful for somebody that's trying to renovate the entire storefront of their building in these inflationary times.
Perfect. Any other questions? Sounds good.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I definitely enjoy these meetings much more than the ones we had years ago about expanding, and it's working well. So I appreciate your guys' efforts. And the next committee is the City County Health Department budget.
So glad everybody get to come to my budget meeting. Thanks for coming, guys. Super interesting, I promise. So the budget really hasn't changed for this year. We have a total budget of about 8 million, 8.7 million. It hasn't fluctuated. We are looking at our costs for environmental health. That has slowed down a little bit for some of our land work for environmental health. So we are just adjusting things conservatively just for some shortfalls. The the groundwater monitoring and those kinds of things have really subsided a little. I mean, just kind of a little bit, so we don't want to overestimate the income coming in there. Our the funds for the inspections of the food, the restaurants and the pools and everything, that's staying steady. That's still going very strong. I know the state is currently looking at adjusting those fees. They haven't been adjusted since 2009. And so they're looking at that just to try to take some of the cost from the taxpayers and put it a little bit more into the businesses. Don't know where that'll go, but that goes into the legislation. They'll decide that. So those are just some talks that they're having with those kind of budget items. The mosquito budget is pretty stagnant. Mosquitoes are not. We do have Brock and his crew out there very regularly. So this year with the mosquitoes, there is West Nile mosquitoes more so because we were not necessarily having those flood waters and they like it drier. And when you have those mosquitoes, the birds start to congregate a little bit, and that's how West Nile is done spread. So I guess the major concern would be we haven't really seen human interaction here. It's more with horses. We do see an uptick with West Nile with horses, which Sam is fully familiar with that. So we're just keeping our eye out, and they are treating those areas and able to hit a lot of areas. We were actually full staffed with our mosquitoes this summer, so that's good. So they're able to hit more areas. Animal shelter, it's kind of status quo. We've had some great donations. The donations really don't affect the budget per se. The donation allows individuals to be able to adopt animals. And what it does is the gentleman that donated the money, all you have to pay is a licensing fee or a adoption fee for the cats. There's no license for a cat, but adoption fee for a cat. And then the other fees, which is the microchipping, the spay and the neutering and everything, that is covered by another person, the gentleman that donated the money. And which has been great because our true hope is to get all of the animals out of the shelter. We're not a housing facility for the animals, so that's pretty stagnant. Where we're going to see the biggest increase, and I'm sure this is where the questions are going to come in, is the behavioral health. So we did have an applicant, and I'm not sure Jordan has been told yet. We had an applicant for a second co-responder, and Friday late afternoon, she was offered more money from her current facility, so she won't be coming. So what we're trying to do is obviously get our co-responder program fully staffed. The problem is that they have to be a licensed clinical social worker. So what happens is we get a lot of candidates, but we are not a mental health facility, so we can't do any of the observations or anything for that person. So we can't take the candidates on. So what we're doing and what we're putting in place and hopefully have it up and running by July 1 is Sarah Winfrey, the co-responder that we currently have, has been reaching out to licensed clinical social workers in our area to potentially try an on-call basis. So if we can get enough, they could maybe be on call once a week and help Sarah out. Sarah would obviously do her 40 plus hours that she already does. And then if we can get an on-call and be able to help that out. We have the budget, thanks to the opioid money that we have received, some grants that Keelani has been writing. We can pay these people. We are paying, what we're offering is a pretty good, it's actually the highest in the state of what we're offering of any of the co-responders in the state, so we are competitive. What the feedback we have gotten is people want to come here, they want a ranchette, they want something like that to be able to live. They're not going to find that just moving in unless they're selling their house wherever they're at. So housing has been a little bit of a struggle for those that have been interested that are from out of state. Along those lines with the behavioral health, we are working with the Behavioral Health Executive Board, which consists of Logan Health, Greater Valley Health, Western Montana Mental Health, and Many Rivers Health, and then us. And we are trying to get a crisis diversion center open. So Western has stepped up to the plate and they are re-looking at Glacier House. It is ready to be able to take some people. We know in all of these talks, we know the ER, the warming shelter, and the jail is not the place to take people in a crisis. So we need some place that people have a soft landing so that the professionals there can figure out where they can go. Do they need to go to a bigger mental health facility? Do they need just to get out of the crisis or whatever it is? So we were originally looking at a 23-hour, 59-minute one. It may be a different version of that. It may be a 72-hour. So we're working with them. Western Montana Mental Health would be giving us the building and they'd be giving us some staffing. Many Rivers has come forward and said that they would also offer some staffing. It's going to have to be a group effort because we just can't get that many mental health professionals in this valley. So we're going to need to rely on. Greater Valley has offered to offer aftercare for referrals, and then Logan Health hasn't really told us. They've talked about security or some other things. They are also short-staffed as well. So we're working towards it. My hope is within the year that we have it up and running. My hope would be by the end of this year we'd have it up and running, but that might just me being very, very optimistic. But I think we are closer than we were last year with everybody coming together and truly asking those questions of who can come to the table and what can you bring to the table. So we had a pretty good working session last week. hopefully we can move forward with that. I know you probably have questions on that. Any questions?
General question on the total budget.
Yep.
I know you're working through that with the commissioners right now.
Pardon?
Correct? You're working through that with the commissioners right
Correct.
now? And the question is, have you been told to hold the line? Do we have, I mean, where are we at? in
Yeah, we're
total?
told to hold the line. Amy could probably speak a little bit better. I brought Amy Dexter from finance, but we're told to hold the line. We're not making any increases. They still haven't determined any cost of living or anything like that, but our budgets and everything are hold the line. We haven't increased anything, asked for anything crazy or anything. It's pretty much the same budget from last year.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, I do have a question on the behavioral health.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that update. That was what I was curious about. In terms of the crisis facility and what you guys are working on versus the state legislative funding that has come through and that process that's happening statewide, but I know there's a focus on the Flathead for that as well. Can you talk about, are those efforts being coordinated? Are they parallel?
I would say
Will
they're
they help
I would say they're parallel. So I think you're talking about the 300 million that was allocated by the legislation. The monies that we have been going for are not part of that pot of money. So we hear rumblings of what people are looking at here. We may be able to foot the bill, or not foot the bill, but fill the bill, a little bit of what they're looking at. Glacier or Western Montana Mental Health does have another facility that would maybe be able to fit more of what the legislative had in mind for this, for regional. I think it was like more of a regional place to be able to bring people, for Lake Lincoln and Sanders County from those surrounding areas. We haven't necessarily been consulted on that part. We're just trying to do our crisis, the immediate need right now. I think that's more of a longer term need. So that money is separate from the money that we have been able to get from the state. Not saying that it's not, it is from the state, but it's not part of that 300 million.
But they are familiar with the work you guys are doing in the
Yes,
bringing
yes,
online of the-
yes. Is it Representative Keenan? He's not senator, is he? He's representative. He has been to our meetings, and knows what we're talking about, and he is on that main committee, so he has been apprised. He's not at the executive boards, but we will brief the Behavioral Health Committee at the next meeting of what we just talked about last week.
Great.
So, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're not trying to work in a silo. We need everybody on the same page talking and figuring out what we're gonna be able to do. And we truly do need all of the facilities in this area to come together and bring in staffing, because not one place. It failed when they tried to do one place doing it, and it failed miserably. So what we need is everybody just to come to the table and say, this is what we can bring to the table, and then we work with that. Any other
Anything
questions?
else?
I guess just really quick, I want to say thank you for your hard work on that, because I know that you have a passion and dedication to make sure that happens. And I want to tell you thank you, because I've seen your work for that. So
Yeah, we have a great staff, and Keelani Cleddy, my deputy health officer, has done absolutely amazing to move this forward and is working very hard and holding people's feet to the fire, which is kind of what it's going to take. So appreciate that.
I do have just one follow-up actually on that. It sounds like one of the bottlenecks for you guys is the staffing and getting qualified folks in to staff.
For the
facility.
co-responder program and the other facility.
And
yes.
the crisis, yeah. And so I'm just wondering, does the 300 million legislative funding, would that help at all with the bottleneck, or are they running the same problem?
Well, I think the money is there for everybody. It's finding the qualified people for it. And that's where we're running into the bottleneck of getting people into our area to be able to have those it's a very finite skill. Well, co-responder is very finite. When people are like, well, there's not lots, but there's licensed clinical social workers. Well, if you've been a licensed clinical social worker in private practice for a long time, it's hard to be able to go and respond with respond with the police and be able to do therapy on the run, basically. They're used to, and I don't want to diminish it in any way, but couch therapy is, it's different going into an office and having a secure area to talk, and it's a whole different when somebody is in crisis and potentially, looking to jump off a very high area, and you need to be able to work with it. So it's a different personality, and it's a different modality. So trying to get that personality for the co-responders. Now, the other ones, you're just trying to get other ones that don't already have jobs, that aren't already working. You can make a lot more money being a private practice than you can in a facility. And so we compete with that as well. Because people are seeking therapy wherever it is. There's lots of things going on in this world, and so people are seeking it. So private practices are full with their, what they have going on. So it's truly just trying to find those right people that want to work with that area and make that money. Yes, Sid.
Have you, do you work with the community college at all about what they offer, and does that help you with filling some of the entry-level positions? Not personally, I don't think they offer the licensed clinical social work. I think that's more of a, is it MSU? U of M. We haven't worked directly with FECC with that. I mean, with our nursing we do, for our nursing components, but not with that. But that's something that we could definitely reach out to them and see if that's something they want to. What happens with the licensed clinical social workers is the amount of hours that they have to have, so they have to be able to get their hours. So when Sarah Winfrey was going through the process, she was a candidate, and she was working with Western Montana Mental Health, and they were able to, and Greater Valley Health, so they were able to write off on her hours. And that's not feasible anymore. They really don't offer that anymore. And to then be employed by the health department. All right, thank you.
Yep. But I can look into it.
Any other questions? Great. Isn't it nice not to talk about masks?
I don't know what you're talking about. Shh. Thank you.
There's an election coming up.
Don't say that. Oh, my Lord. All my friends would come back.
Sorry, didn't mean to give you nightmares. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing for Tronstad Meadows Whitetail Crossing Proposed Growth Policy Amendments. So what we do at this point in time, we do not take any action this evening. At this point, the council just accepts comments on the growth policy amendment. The application is approximately for 110 acres located in the north side of Tronstad Road between Highway 93 North and Whitefish Stage Road. I just have a couple requests. We've received a tremendous amount of emails. What I'd ask to do, if you want to step up and give comment, please give us your comments. We've read the emails. Please don't just read us your emails. Give us the high points, because we get a lot of people that want to talk, and we do read all of our emails. And so with that, I'd like to get started. If everyone can just, whoever wants to talk, just step up. We just need your name, the city where you live. I don't need addresses per se, because I do understand there are sensitivities to giving your personal address at times. So go ahead and proceed.
Good evening. My name's Colby Shaw. I live at 89 Tronstead Drive. This is a public comment. Just went to the email this afternoon, so you probably haven't read it yet. But once again, I'll try not to read through the whole thing, hit the highlights. I do want to say thank you for having this public hearing. It is very important to us in the neighborhood that we are heard and listened to. I did a lot of reading of the growth policy, because that's, I guess, the topic this evening is the growth policy. Few things that stand out to me about it. I got to put my glasses on. I turned 50 and I got to wear glasses now. This growth policy was adopted in July 2017. Typically every 5 years, it should be reviewed by the planning board, which would put us 2022. And within 2022, this is not within the annexation zone. So we're only a year and a half or a year and so removed from the last time it probably should have been reviewed. Typically, the planning board puts together in the fall a formal work session that addresses some things if it needs to be annexed in. This, again, was not annexed in. It's clearly that there was no formal work session for a growth amendment with this. What actually had happened is there was a staff report submitted to the Planning Commission on April 4th with a public hearing for the Planning Commission on April 9th. This leaves us no time for scrutinizing the growth of this amendment, and in fact resulting in a piecemeal manner, which the city claims is an issue too often and wants to avoid. One of the issues in the growth policy states land use under Chapter 4. Residential developments in Kalispell has often occurred in a piecemeal manner, resulting in just disjointed service delivery and a lack of community cohesiveness and interconnectivity. And I feel that this is exactly that. This proposed subdivision is in fact lacking community cohesiveness and interconnectivity. The location does not feel that it's part of the city of Kalispell and certainly does not have pedestrian or bicycle paths. In fact, there are no paths from Reserve Street to Highway 93 to Church Drive. When dealing with properties outside of the annexation boundary, it's required additional scrutiny to be looked and judged when looking at those properties. Also within the growth policy, transportation in Chapter 8 talks about safety problems, and the lack of pedestrian and bicycle facilities is a significant safety issue. Once again, no traffic or no bicycle or pedestrian paths from Reserve to Church Drive, either side of Highway 93. The current annexation boundary that does run from Ponderosa Lane to Church Drive has probably roughly 15 businesses on the east side of Highway 93. Those businesses are not currently annexed in the city. Only one of them is. It's Ponderosa Animal Clinic, and that's because their septic had failed. The neighborhood and residential properties in the area are also counting and have their own well and septic, and from all the neighbors whom I've spoken to, none want to connect to the city services. One item stood out to me the most probably in this growth policy, and it talks about the Highway 93 area plan, the goal, and its policies. With the construction of Church Drive overpass on US 93, it quotes, "Every effort must be taken to fully utilize this interchange and conversely limit direct access onto US 93 for at least 3/4 of a mile along the areas north and south of this facility to avoid congestion points and the need for future traffic signals." That from Tronstead Drive to Church is 0.6 miles. I drove it today. And it says at least 3/4 of a mile. You put a traffic light in there, you're going to congest it, and you're basically contradicting your growth policy. That's what you folks want to avoid. The current traffic study by Abilene Traffic Services states Tronstead Meadows and Whitetail Crossing will meet 3 of the 9 warrants with MDT that would trigger a traffic light. This would contradict what the city's wanting per the Highway 93 North area policy. The traffic study also suggests that MDT is planning to reconstruct Whitefish Stage and is currently in the design phase. However, a construction date for this project has not been set. Like I said, I just turned 50. I've lived here my whole life, and we've talked about Whitefish Stage being expanded or improved. It hasn't happened. I guess right in front of Rose Crossing, there has been a little something there. So how long is that truly going to take? I feel the Kalispell Fire Station response time will take too long. I think there should be a new fire station closer to proximity. In the actual growth policy amendment staff report, there has not been, it states in there by a staff person, there has not been significant review of the annexation boundary as it relates to this area. Once again, I don't think the time has been put in with proper work sessions to truly consider the safety hazards with this proposed subdivision. It also talks about that the growth policy implement strategy should benefit the public as a whole rather than one or a few property owners at the expense of others. Due to the lack of significant review by planning staff, inadequate formal work session by planning board, the requirement of every effort to limit access to Highway 93 to avoid congestion points, and the fact there's no pedestrian or bicycle paths or facilities, the lack of proper infrastructure right for stage, and no fire station, the process is being piecemealed and does not benefit the public as a whole, but rather one person. This proposal should be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name's Jeff Muller. My wife and I reside at 45 Tronstead Drive. We are also property owners in Kalispell city limits. I'm here in opposition of amending the growth policy, rezoning the 110 acres within the policy, and approval of the Tronstead Meadows Whitetail Crossing subdivision. I'm going to skip everything that I think Colby just covered as far as affordable homes and the roads presently not done and bike paths and everything else that are not going to be put in. I'm going to skip right to the emergency services. The emergency services are dangerously stretched thin despite the added new levy that was just passed. The response times for the CPSM report prepared for the City Center for Public Safety and Management, the NFPA benchmark for response time for fire EMS is 240 seconds. According to the report from a study done for the city of Kalispell, and I quote, the 90th percentile total response time for all calls was 14.3 minutes, more than double the NFPA 1710 standard for structural fires benchmark. 6.0 EMS incidents and 6.33 for fire incidents minutes respectively. For fire, the aggregate total response time was 15.3 minutes, while for EMS calls was 14.0 minutes. Both of these are inadequate and need to be addressed. Please note that because these figures are mostly responses within the city, the response time to the proposed subdivision would be somewhat greater. And that touches bases on that fire department that needs to go in so that the people that are in this new subdivision that they're proposing will be protected. Okay. It should be noted that the NFPA 1710 response time criterion isn't normally accepted benchmark for service delivery, but not necessarily a CPSM recommendation. However, CPSM was informed that the city of Kalispell desires to meet the NFPA 1710 recommended benchmarks as much as possible, and that maintaining acceptable response times are an important priority for the city's leaders. The report also states that CPSM was informed by the medical director that the influx of new residents following COVID-19 pandemic has shocked the EMS system throughout the county, but particularly in Kalispell. In addition, the normal tourist influx during the summer months strains many county services. It is his opinion that the system as currently structured cannot sustain services given the current growth rate. So if we go ahead and we put another annexation and we amend the growth policy so far north without it putting in a fire station, and you put 380 homes in there and you put all these people in there, we're not going to be able to get to those people in time. And right now, the city is so stretched out that, and I feel for the fire department, I feel for the police department and the EMS. They're doing a great job. It's just way too far stretched out. With all that said, I strongly urge the City Council to not pass the proposed amended growth policy until all safety concerns for the public are met in its entirety. Infrastructure before growth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Greetings, Honorable Mayor Johnson and members of the Kalispell City Council. First of all, thank you for your service and your dedication to our community. My name is Ming Munzing, and I live at 213 Tronstead Road in Kalispell. As a homeowner and taxpayer in both the county and city, I am here to strongly oppose the proposed amendment to the Kalispell growth policy for the Tronstad Meadows and Whitetail Crossing development, application KGPA 2401. Also, many years ago, I worked with both the city of Kalispell and the county as a developer, and it was my experience that in amending growth policies, there were many, many, many more hours and sessions, work sessions that were required in order to make changes. For the record, I agree, with all that has been stated and shared in opposition to the amending the current growth policy. So first of all, I find it in conflict with the current growth policies. The proposed amendment directly contradicts the Kalispell growth policy, Planet 2035, and the city's annexation policy. These policies are designed to ensure orderly, sustainable growth that aligns with our community values and prevents patchwork city development. Fast-tracking this amendment for a single developer undermines these principles and appears to prioritize individual interests over the broader community, which, in my understanding, may be both unlawful and illegal. Also, poor planning and short-sightedness. Unlike the strategic development that we see in other areas along the Highway 93 corridor, the patchwork or the proposed patchwork annexation that would follow an amendment to the growth policy is poorly planned and short-sighted, and it compromises Kalispell's long-term visions for sustainable growth and wise planning in the North Kalispell area. Another is community outcry. The community's opposition to this amendment is overwhelming. To date, 550 signatures on a petition, packed meetings, and numerous public comments against it highlight this proposal does not align with the community's desires and best interests. Key differences between the proposed growth policy amendment and currently what's happening on Highway 93 development corridor, which is in alignment with existing growth policy. So regarding these, so I'm drawing a difference between what's happening in the Highway 93 corridor, good job, and what is proposed in this piecemeal growth policy amendment and the annexation for Whitetail, or for Tronstad Meadows Whitetail Crossing. First of all, regarding planning and strategy, the proposed amendment appears rushed and narrowly focused, attempting to hastily address traffic, safety, and infrastructure issues without integrating into a broader strategic plan. Another is location and integration. So this amendment targets rural and agricultural areas without substantial contiguous borders to the city of Kalispell, leading to isolated patchwork, essentially island annexation. The tiny 75-foot adjacent boundary of Quail Meadows really offers no benefit for egress or safety and does not provide legitimate validation to amend the current growth policy in order to annex an adjacent 110 acres that's fraught with issues that you all have read so much about already and we know about. Also, economic and environmental concerns. So approving this amendment would strain the city's resources, our neighbor Jeff spoke about that, and set a troubling precedent for unaffordable developments. The proposed housing prices are out of reach for many residents, contradicting our current policy's goal of providing affordable housing for all income levels. If the city is eager to provide affordable housing, why not do so, with appropriate areas that are already approved and already inside our growth policy, and, things like building vertically in the city of Kalispell, amending zoning laws to allow accessory dwelling units. This would be popular and a practical solution, as well as honor the current growth policy as it is, which provides for substantial growth and development to meet growing housing needs. In conclusion, and my appeal, given these points, I urge the Kalispell City Council to reject application KGPA 24-01 as is and maintain our commitment to thoughtful, inclusive, and strategic growth. Let's ensure that our development policies reflect the needs and value of all Kalispell residents, preserving the unique character and natural beauty of our area, and not individual interests that already abrogate, what our growth policy states. I hope you will consider the long-term interests of our community and make a decision that aligns with responsible and sustainable planning principles. Thank you for your attention and for the great work you do for our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michelle Damaris, and I live in Buffalo Stage in Kalispell. I'm a homeowner there, and thank you so much, all of you, for listening to us tonight. Really appreciate your time. I am here to speak against the proposed development at Tronstead Meadows and Whitetail Crossing development, and I support all the prior statements that were made tonight to that effect. And here are the reasons why. Traffic impact, I think that's an obvious one, but in October of 2021, the Department of Transportation did what's called the West Reserve Corridor Study, in which they projected the traffic growth in our area to be only 2.4% a year up to the year 2040. The Kalispell population, just since 2021, according to the data that I researched, is as much as 32% growth. And so that right there tells you something. Not to mention the fact that this development would add considerable traffic because of numerous developments all within blocks of each other. The Tronstead Whitetail development adds 380 single-family homes, Quail Meadows, 39, the Village at Eagle Valley, 113, a build-to-suit 32 acres at Whitefish Stage Estates. And these, like was mentioned before, are homes that start around $469,000 and up from there. They're 2 to 4 bedroom homes. And the average income in this area does not support one person coming and buying that, short of being an out-of-stater or having 2 adults per residence. So when you do the math, you add up all of those single-family homes together in a short area, and 2 people driving for each home, that's over 1,064 autos, not to mention any traffic going to that build-to-suit area for retail purposes. And the infrastructure definitely cannot support this. We all know that the firefighters and the police and the schools do the best job that they can, but we constantly are being asked for more money through levies. And so something needs to be done, but I don't think development's the answer in that area. Not to mention the fact, on the softer side, there are silent victims, and that would be the wildlife. And, they were here first. So October 2021, again, that same corridor study showed, not surprisingly, that grizzly bears were found within 3 miles of West Reserve and Whitefish Stage. Bull trout, yellow-billed cuckoos, are in that area as well. And personally, I've even had wildlife sightings in Buffalo Stage, right on the sidewalk. The security camera captured a black bear wandering down the street in the middle of the night. I think most of you know that there was a grizzly bear in the meadows by Woody's not too long ago. And on Cherry Lynn Road, which is right off of West Reserve near the intersection with Whitefish Stage, 2 years ago, there was a bear caught on a camera. So these animals are around. We don't even always see them, but the more that we keep developing this property, the more they're going to get pushed out or potentially become food habituated and a threat to the local community. And last, but certainly not least, is our quality of life. I mean, this is the thing that brought all of us here, I suspect. Nobody really wants Kalispell to become the next Jackson Hole or Vail. If we wanted to live in a bigger city with traffic or crime, we would live in Missoula or Seattle. And, this is so important. There have been hundreds of people expressing their views, and we will remember how you vote. And so I just urge you to do the right thing. This is a deal breaker for Kalispell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Eric Mulcahy with Sand Surveying, 2 Village Loop, Kalispell, and I am representing the developers on this project. I want to start out by saying that we have read through the staff reports and agree with the findings. Staff has done a thorough job, a very good job of analyzing the application materials and assessing the impacts of the development with the review criteria of the Montana state statutes and the city adopted codes and regulations. We have also reviewed the recommended conditions of approval and are in agreement with all of those. This took us close to 9 months to put this application together, so it wasn't something that we just slapped together spur of the moment. The application package is an annexation, a growth policy amendment, a zone change, and a subdivision application. To be absolutely clear, this property is in the Kalispell growth policy boundary. It is actually designated suburban residential, which allows up to 4 units an acre in that designation. Our project is coming in under 4 units an acre, so our development is actually compliant with the growth policy designation. Where we're asking for the amendment is to expand the annexation boundary, which we butt up against, and we're actually adjacent to the city limits. So that would expand out to include this property. But to be very clear, we are in the growth policy of Kalispell, and that policy designates this suburban residential. Since the Planning Commission meeting that was held just last month, it was clear that traffic and transportation was the most important issue to the public and the commissioners that were present at the meeting. With great effort and cooperation from the Montana Department of Transportation and the Kalispell Public Works Department and Planning Office, we were able to come to an understanding with the MDOT for that intersection. We were just able to work this out about a week ago. And essentially what that agreement letter acknowledges is that there's the growth in Kalispell is going to occur, and that essentially MDOT needs to be more proactive in their problem solving for that growth. Whereas before, their prior policy has been more reactive. So once the development occurs and they start seeing problems, then they look for the solution. In this instance, they looked at our plans, looked at our traffic impact study, and essentially came to an agreement, which I believe is in your packet. And that agreement would outline the improvements that this developer would make, particularly to that Tronstad 93 intersection. And those improvements include through and left-hand turn lanes on Tronstad and Silverbrook for east and westbound traffic, right-hand turn lanes on Tronstad and Silverbrook Drive for east and westbound traffic. The developer would install all of the electronics for the traffic signals at the intersection. The project would create left-hand turn improvements to the north and southbound lanes of Highway 93 by extending those and allowing more stacking. The developers would install a deceleration lane on the northbound lane of 93, so a right-hand turn lane onto Tronstad. And lastly, the developer would provide the financial collateral to the MDOT for the traffic signals so that they could be installed as soon as the MDOT believes that they're necessary. So all the improvements would be done with phase one up front. So before final plat, those improvements would be in place, and then the signals would go up when MDOT is ready. So it'd be similar to your Rose Crossing signalization, where the developers put those in, the improvements in, and then the MDOT installed the lights when they were ready. So We believe we've done a good job with this development. We worked extremely hard to provide a project that doesn't ask for any variances or deviations. There's no PUD that asks for anything special or unique. So it's just pretty much straight annexation, zoning in compliance with the growth policy, and then a subdivision approval with no variances and all of the improvements that would go in on Tronstad, the intersections at Tronstad and Whitefish Stage, and then all of the internal development of the project would be constructed completely to city standards with curbs, gutters, sidewalks, street trees, street lights, the full gamut of urban services that are required by the city of Kalispell. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Council members, I'm Mark Mulcahy, Silverbrook Drive. Flathead Valley needs more houses available in price ranges that police officers and other public safety professionals can afford. I've seen the Flathead Valley change drastically over the years, and this is by far the worst housing situation we've seen for our first responders. At the Flathead County Sheriff's Office, I see the struggle many of our officers face when trying to find homes. With such a limited amount of housing available, we have public safety professionals living in temporary campers. Additionally, we struggle to recruit individuals for our workforce and have had qualified candidates turn down positions due to the housing costs. I'm here to encourage city councilors to do what you can to ensure that there are more desirable workforce housing options. We need to ensure there are desirable housing options on the market that are actually within the reach of public safety officers who can serve our community every day. Thank you for doing what you can to ensure our police officers and public safety professionals have a permanent home they can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dan Munzing, and I live on Tronstad. I agree with all the things opposing the annexation. I would like to be brief and make a couple comments. One, I'm concerned about safety, is that the Tronstad is 21 feet across, and it has steep edges. It's got a blind hill, and there's no immediate plans to go ahead and to widen that and to make it safer. If you have 380 houses and you have multiple children that are trying to have bicycles and walking in addition to pedestrians, it basically is a very dangerous situation, and there will be things that will happen, unfortunately, because there are people that drive fairly fast, and so from a safety standpoint, the road isn't quite ready. I also look at Silverbrook, which is a similar development. However, Silverbrook has much better access both in walking trails and in bicycle trails, and also they've got access to Highway 93 with the underpass at Church, and they also have access, they've got a big biking trail along Highway 93. I do agree that this is kind of a mishmash, piecemeal development. From that road, we are going to have, from Highway 93, we're going to go to County Road to City Road, to County Road to City Road, to back to County Road. And so that definitely is a piecemeal development. Tronstad is a narrow county road, and so a lot of improvements do need to be made before it would be ready for a development like this. They're only proposing one egress, and so I definitely have concerns about safety, and I also have concerned about traffic, of which the other thing that's interesting is part of the punch ticket that they have to do get this approved is a traffic study. And I listened to the meeting, and they told us about the wonderful traffic study they did in February. And I would say that a traffic study on Tronstad in February is similar to a snow study in Kalispell in July. It's the wrong time of year. And so I think they did also state that 90% of the people coming from that area are going south. And they said that fully developed, it would be 3,500 traffic trips, of which that's 3,150 trips going south. And so that does put a lot of strain on both Tronstad. And I have to say, I was comforted that that Sands stated that they at least are trying to address that at stage one. that's a first step. But I still think it's probably premature. If you look at Silverbrook, Silverbrook's been in development for 18 years. And so if we really don't have all the infrastructure ready and ready to go, if you guys vote no and say, let's give it another year or two to get the infrastructure ready, there's going to be development there and it will happen. But I think rushing it and pushing it through, I guess I'm opposed to that. The one last comment I make, by the way, thank you for letting me speak. I've heard from several people that they've told me, they say the fix is in. They said the city council has already decided that there is no way they're going to vote against this. And so I hope that you can listen to the concerned citizens. 550 people have signed petitions, and everybody I talked to, almost everyone, was opposed to it for the same reason that traffic and infrastructure things aren't ready. So I hope that you guys are open-minded. I hope you listen to the concerned citizens, that the response has been amazing. How many people are standing up and are passionate to say this is not the right place, not the right development. And I quote one of your own who said, this is a good development in the wrong place. And I just have to say that those are my words. Thank you for hearing, and I hope you make a good decision.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Myrna Terry, and I'm from Kalispell. I'm here to speak in favor of this subdivision. I've been building homes in Kalispell for about 30 years now, and the mission of our company is to build homes for people who live and work in our valley. I want to support any subdivision or neighborhood that comes along that will try to provide homes for people who live and work in our valley. We have emergency responders, police officers, teachers, firemen, all of those people who really need homes to live in. And what I appreciate about this neighborhood, about this subdivision, is that they are trying to come up with ways to make the homes more affordable for people who need places to live so that they can work in our valley to provide services for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Shaw, and I live at 89 Tronstead. Thank you guys for being here. I know it's probably going to be a long night. I just want to make a couple comments. I think, first of all, I absolutely oppose this development in general. I think it is in the wrong place. I think there's a lot of areas for really good development in Kalispell. I'm concerned how quickly they're trying to rush this through. I think there's a lot of things that need to be considered before. I actually appreciate their level of financial investment to make this work, but I think the concern is that there's not a lot of people in Kalispell that want this here. And I think that's the balance that we need to figure out. I think that the gentleman that came up and spoke about the police and fire and not having affordable homes, these are not going to be affordable homes. They're building them out as lots, so somebody's going to have to get a construction loan. In the meantime, they're going to have to pay a mortgage or a rent someplace else. I think probably construction costs right now are $250 a square foot. I don't know how they're going to then get a loan to build a home. I mean, the bottom line for me is they're saying that it's affordable housing, and I don't believe it is. And I don't believe that anybody without two incomes that works, $75,000 each to be able to pay a mortgage to afford a home there. So I don't know that that's in consideration as far as affordable housing. I could be wrong, but I also know that there's a lot of other developments that are going on that are more affordable, that are within city limits, that are also being developed at this time. I think that safety is a big concern, and I'm concerned about the way they have it situated right now, with them wanting to put a light in. But I also wonder if there isn't property that needs to be purchased in order for them to make that light work. And I don't know that that person is interested in selling that property, so I don't know if that needs to be considered as well. But I absolutely believe that the infrastructure needs to be in place before this development goes forward at all. And I absolutely don't want it to be annexed into the city because I think it's a rural area and that large of a development doesn't fit in that area. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Danielle Toohey. Live in Kalispell. I agree with all of the other commenters that have been in opposition to this proposal. I attended the Planning Commission meeting and listened to the repeated assertions by the developers that this is already city-style land. I live 3 houses down from this proposed development. My home, bought in 2012, is a farm. Highland Drive, bordering the development, is a dirt road. I joked that I'd have to be livestock to be more rural than a farm off a dirt road. We chose this property specifically because it is rural. Tronstad Road has a literal farm stand on it that I enjoy frequenting. It is offensive for the developers to pretend that they know our area and don't think it's rural. I am here representing not just my husband and family, but also over 550 community members that have signed my petition opposing this development. I would like to ensure that this petition is put into record. I emailed every council member both the link to the petition and the printout of the signatures. I also printed out the original at the last meeting. I also emailed asking what the best way to present it was and did not receive a response over 2 weeks ago. If you want me to reread it, I can, but I believe it should already be in record, and that seems like a waste of our time. Aside from the 3 developers that attended, 2 out of the 130 plus people that attended the last meeting were mediocrely in support of this proposal. The other 128-ish came in opposition. Afterwards, I made many connections with community members. I also had time to actually go around and get signatures on my petition, which I didn't have prior to that one. Not a single person I spoke with while gathering over 550 signatures agreed with this proposal or refused to sign. It was unanimous. The only negative response I got was repeatedly being told that the community has no faith in its city council to do the right thing here. I found that very unfortunate. I prefer to give people the benefit of the doubt and let them show me who they are rather than prejudging. However, because of how many times I heard it, I felt like it was pretty important to mention. They told me that they believe city council members are in the developers' pockets and that this is predetermined, as another gentleman also heard. I very much hope that isn't so. I would not want to believe that of people. They told me that attending the planning board meeting was so disheartening. They watched the planning board, besides Councilor Graham, who I want to make a specific note, absolutely listened, completely disregard all of the expert opinions and evidence and hours upon hours of testimony that we provided, and only listened to PJ and the 3 developers. Everyone at that meeting who you represent felt completely ignored. Even I had a hard time understanding how it's possible that our city representatives can say they represent us when our concerns are dismissed. When the constituents who have taken time out of their lives to come here for free speak up and are not heard. The developers do not even care enough to send anyone to this meeting that actually has power to make decisions on the development, despite them being paid for this time. We didn't hear from a single person on the Council of Teachers, etc., that the developers advertised they're consulting with. None of them also felt it was worth their time to attend. If this is important to them, where are they? I say this because I feel it shows complete disrespect, not only of the community, but of you all, by not even having the courtesy of attending these meetings. At the listening session that the developers put on, they point blank told us that they have no power in the decision-making. They couldn't ask to change the meeting time. They don't have any kind of majority stake in the business. They couldn't tweak the plans, nothing. So it's confusing to those of us in opposition how their voices are heard more than ours. I emailed the city asking for an explanation for this over 2 weeks ago and have not received a response beside Ms. Nguyen, I believe, emailing me that he forwarded it to every council member. At the last meeting, we were told repeatedly that 2 weeks is an abundance of time to respond to things like this. So again, I would like to believe the best, but this is quite a pattern at this point. Last time, I spoke about the moving speech one of the developers gave me at that same listening session about this development. With tears in his eyes, he told me my neighbors and I, how he had friends who are teachers, firefighters, and police officers who can't find housing they can afford. That's also been mentioned at least twice prior to now, including the lady that spoke, I believe 2 people before me. Again, I took him at his word. I let people prove themselves wrong. So I spent a chunk of my time researching the cost of these houses and what our policemen, firefighters, and teachers can afford. At the last meeting, I explained the actual numbers. I feel like you guys are probably very well versed in the actual numbers. But along with the woman who last spoke, even not including the fact that you have to get a construction loan and be able to float rent or another house while going through this. Even the absolute highest paid teachers, policemen, firefighters, if they were married to each other or a couple and tried to purchase one of these houses to live in, would not be able to afford it. They would not qualify, regardless of, that's not even including the construction loan. I shared that, assuming that based on these statements, the developers would care and potentially consider changing what they're doing, since that was, according to the developer, the entire point of what he was doing. Obviously, they don't. In fact, they were offended to hear those facts. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We've been told for years now that the rampant approval of developments in the city will bring in taxes to support our absolutely drowning infrastructure. It's been years, and our infrastructure issues just keep getting worse. What you're doing is not working. I'm hoping that you stop doing it and expecting different results. It's absolutely illogical to continue to expand a city that can't even support itself as is. My hope for Kalispell is that we can fix our problems first, then maybe consider continuing to annex. If I was a parent with malnourished, neglected children and had another baby, I'd rightly be harshly judged. I don't understand promoting annexation and development that already can't be managed. Based on my interactions with the developers, I'm also pretty concerned to hear about the road proposition, the traffic plan. I don't know how this works, and since they sprung it on us at this meeting, I don't have time to research it. I would assume you all know much better. But considering they've made a lot of empty promises already, until it's actually written into the plan, it seems irrational to accept that as the answer. If they want to do that, that's wonderful, but they should have to present a new plan that can be approved as is, not with additions that none of us can be sure will actually be followed through with. I appreciate your time. I appreciate that we have the opportunity to do this and to speak with you. And I'm really hopeful and excited to potentially tell the 550 people that I represent that our voices were actually heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cody Hoon. I'm a teacher here at Glacier High School, and man, I don't envy any of you guys tonight. This is tough. I'm 40 years old. I was born in Whitefish. My parents live at the intersection of Whitefish Stage and Hodgson. There's a beautiful little wheat field there. And we've had the privacy of that for a long time, the family, I should say, my parents do. And I've had the ability to grow up in a place where you have those views and you have all of those opportunities to just kind of settle in and grow up in a proper place. I feel to all of you in these areas that are seeing development like this, but we're growing, we're changing. We need housing. We absolutely need housing. We need it. And I am for this because there is an earnest move on behalf of these developers to do what they can in an economy like this to provide for community members like myself to be able to actually potentially stay here and live here. I can't say that this is going to solve any or all of the problems by any means at all, but I do know one thing: more houses, please. And if you do choose to annex this and you do choose to put this into city services, it is going to open up the potential over the long term to contribute to the solution of this massive growth that we're seeing here in the valley. I'm not an expert on the subject. I don't pretend to be, but I sure do want to be able to live in a community that I am lucky enough to teach your children in. I've been certified doing that for 10 years. I believe in it. I love my work. I love what I do, and I love those kids. I sure would love to be able to live here and be able to make that work. Any and all of these many little puzzle pieces as they come together that can help me do that a little bit more is something I'm very grateful for. And to those of you on the Tronstad side of it that don't want the development, I understand that. Like, I do. I grew up right there, and I mean, to some degree, I have seen what's happened all around, and that's a difficult situation to be in. So please forgive me. Don't judge me as a hater of progress. That isn't where I'm trying to come from, but I do truly believe that we could use some more housing, and I truly do believe that there's a multi-pronged approach to this. I hope that this could be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Sharon DeMeester, 415 Chestnut Drive. That's the Ponderosa subdivision in Kalispell, Montana. The article in the Beacon and the Interlake stated that Frank Garner and John Sanyu were applicants in the development off of 93 and Tronstead. It also stated that the development called Tronstead Meadows will have affordable housing for the working class families in the Flathead. The application for this project lists Mr. Garner and Mr. Sandu as applicants, and the owner of record is CAE Properties LLC in Mobile, Alabama. By having Mr. Gardner and Mr. Sandu, well-respected members of our community, as applicants, it looks on the surface as if it is being developed by locals, which may help get the project approved. Now let's look at the affordability issue. A cost estimate from Zillow Marketplace states that a $200,000 home with a $40,000 down at 6.56% interest, 30-year fixed, would cost $1,210 a month. The cheapest new home in the area is the village at Eagle Valley Ranch, and it is the cheapest house listed in that development, according to Zillow, is $493,000 for a basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,597 square foot home. So the cost is 2.5 times what a monthly payment, and the payment would be $28.30 a month. Is this affordable? I don't know. I haven't been on the workforce for a long time. Do we need another subdivision at this time? Valley Ranch is approved for 380 homes. Glacier Town Center's PUD approximately 282 homes, 150 townhouses, and 200 apartments. These, and let's see, I missed one spot. So Valley Ranch has 380, and then 280, 150, and 200 for Glacier Town Center. These two have all of the infrastructure, roads, and traffic lights in, or they're in the process of putting them in now. Roads are a major problem. Tronstead. Today, a right turn only from Tronstead onto Highway 93 is creating a major problem. They have put in a divider on Tronstead that traffic can only turn right, turn north. And it was to force them to go to church and come back. And because they have to do that, they are not doing that. They are driving now, coming down Surcheck and entering the private roads of Ponderosa subdivision. The cars come through on Chestnut Drive and to Ponderosa Drive to Highway 93, and then turn left, south, to avoid having to go to church. Turning onto 93 at Ponderosa is much more dangerous than using Tronstead because we are not part of the divided highway section right there, where Tronstead is just at the beginning of where it's divided. So when you pull out of Ponderosa, you're pulling right into the traffic coming at you and going south. Traffic is moving 70 miles an hour. I've driven that road so many times. Traffic is moving at 70 miles an hour. Second issue with Tronstead is the burrow pits, deep burrow pits, and no lanes on the road. Little quick point on the burrow pits. During this winter when we had the blizzard, I turned onto Tronstead to come in the back way into Ponderosa. Total whiteout, could not see a thing, put my car in the ditch. The car was, because the burrow pit is so deep, the snow was above my window. I could not get out of the car. I have a sweet angel neighbor who came by and helped get me out of the car because I could not get the door open enough to get out. And that was when it was 40 below. So it was very dangerous. And that burrow pit is very dangerous. Lack of lanes is a major issue when going from Surcheck to Whitefish Stage Road. There is a blind hill. I have had some very close calls. No lines to keep people over that blind hill on their portion of the road. The application states that Tronstead will be improved on the north side from Surcheck to Highway 93. Do you think that all the traffic will only go to 93 north and not to Whitefish Stage? Please consider if this development is needed at this time with 812 units in the development stage already, which is Glacier Town Center and the Valley Ranch. Those two, between them, have 812 units in progress. The paperwork's pretty well done. Please do the upgrades to Tronstead before developing this land. That, to me, is the most critical thing, is the roads are very dangerous. I, as a senior citizen, go out the back of Ponderosa on our private road that intersects to Tronstead because it's not safe for old people to drive out onto 93 with that traffic. And a little quick side note, today I Googled this project and their advertising is already up. They're already advertising lots for sale online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm not sure. I need to ask a quick question. Can I read something from a neighbor of mine who was called out in an emergency? Is that a possibility or can I not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it okay? Okay. Dear council members, my name is Brian Kelly. I live at 220 Highland Drive. Thank you for taking the time to allow residents affected by this proposed development to weigh in. I want to start out by stating that I am not opposed to the development of this property. My issue is solely based on the excessive density that is being presented. My home will border this subdivision by approximately 1,000 feet on 3 sides, so in short, I will be surrounded by the subdivision. There are a host of concerning issues that will all be presented this evening. With that in mind, I will not repeat myself in my response. In addition, I am listed as having water rights to the well that is proposed on this property for this development. To this date, no one has contacted me to discuss the water rights that I have and that will be shared. My position on this is simple. The developers should adhere to the existing zoning rules that are currently in place. Thank you. And then my name is Jessica Buber. I live at 250 Highland Drive. I agree with a lot of everything that everyone has said. I'm in real estate. I'm a property manager. I'm not opposed to development. I think in order to create low-income housing, you have to have more housing. So I understand the purpose of this development. I think my biggest concern would be the traffic on Tronstad. It's a big deal living on Highland Drive now that you cannot turn and you have to turn right out of Tronstad. People do U-turns in our road all the time, and they're causing our issues with coming out of that road. Also, there's a bump gate that will probably be proposed to come out onto Highland Drive as an emergency exit for that subdivision. Our road is a dirt road. About 14 people live on it. It cannot handle large vehicles. It cannot handle the kind of emergency vehicles that will go in there. I manage 650 properties in the valley. I know how many times responders have to go to apartments, to subdivisions all the time for calls, for silly things, barbecues on fire, domestic violence. I'm here to represent Highland Drive. That road needs to be addressed before that subdivision goes in. It should be paved. Sidewalks should be put down. That's just a concern for everyone in my HOA, and just wanted to have you guys address that because it hasn't been said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Anthony Lapke, 247 Glenwood Drive. I'm a resident and a teacher. I'm here to share my concern about the shortage of housing in this valley. When I moved here, I had the ability with my wife, who also was an educator, to be able to look for housing. And we had the opportunity to look at 15 homes that were within our range to be able to consider. And we were able to put down roots, and we've lived here for over 20 years where we've raised our family. Right now, this is not an attainable feat for people who are moving here in the field of education. The argument saying that these homes are not affordable on a single income, you're right. Even at the affordability areas that they're aiming for, these are not attainable for most of our public employees. It just can't happen. Now, if somebody is lucky enough to have 2 incomes, then they may be able to make this happen. But none of this gets fixed unless there is more housing. And so this may not be a development that allows for a new educator to be able to buy a home there, but this may open up other inventory that may exist in town. At the moment, right now, that inventory doesn't exist. There are no homes for us to go look for that could be in our price range if you're a new educator. And so there are limited things that can be done to fix this. But the things that a city council can do is they can encourage development, and they can encourage projects that create some density. And density is hard because nobody wants density to sprawl out further away from the core of the city. I agree. But the question is, where do you put it? I mean, if it's not here, is there a better spot? Is there a different project that is being proposed that creates options? You know, you can't stop all options because maybe somewhere else there's a better solution. You have to go with the things that are in front of you and say, can we make these things better? When we build more homes, when we have more inventory available, the market will change, allowing people to have options. until there are more homes, people aren't going to be able to move here. Right now, we're in the middle of contract negotiations, and we're looking and saying, what would it take to be able to even move to this town as a new educator? And housing is the biggest feature that is the impediment. If the city can't look for ways to make things more attainable, then we aren't going to have people moving here to work in public service. They are going to find other areas and they are going to go, and we are going to face a shortage that is going to become critical because we can't attract people to move here. So is this the right solution? I don't know. Does the city council need to work to find solutions? Yes. If there are options that make this work, I encourage you to explore it. I encourage you to invest and go for programs that do encourage density. And you also still have to take into account all the safety concerns that everybody has that are completely valid. We can't do this at the cost of public safety, but we also have to understand that if we do not build growth, then we are no longer going to be able to provide the services that the city needs, because the people that provide those services won't move here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, Council and Mayor Johnson. Tim Koenig. I actually truly grew up on that dirt that this is being spoken of. That, I guess, I haven't done any research on, the things that were presented earlier. I agree with a lot of the things presented earlier. And I guess I just come to say, like, because this does touch home to me, there's a level of, like, wanting to be proud of Kalispell. Like, let's be proud of the place that we are stewarding, and you guys take a big load of that. And I can't imagine doing it. We appreciate it. So I guess the things that, when I say that, the things that come to mind are just safety of the roads. Like, I live on Tronstead now, coming from Highland Drive now to Tronstead. Even without this development, there's probably 6 cars in the ditch in the wintertime, and they just kind of drive, through my yard and back up on the road. So I think there's a lot of consideration to go into, like, how this gets accessed. I have a lot of friends who don't have homes, and are having a hard time finding homes. So I understand this conundrum. I think a thing that would make me proud is to see more infrastructure be put in place that allows going out for a bike ride. Like, you can't bike anywhere from this neighborhood, or let alone walk, unless you want to walk in the field. You're welcome. The other thing I think, and to that point, I would love to see somehow, I don't know how it's done, but I would love to see a subdivision that's proposed that's less dense, I guess. And then the other point is, and just the 170 acres that border to the east and north of this, that's still in the family. And the growth policy, I think, encompasses that, which I kind of, listening to the last meeting, I kind of like chuckled because I had no idea that was possible, to have land in the city growth policy without, like, being told or something. But just for that property, just the plan right now is, and the reason I have that property is because the family's breaking it into 5-acre pieces for each of the family members who are descendants of the Koenig properties, are able to have 5 acres. So there might be, like, a very dense neighborhood going next door, but in the near future, that north to south line going east is going to remain at least 5 acres for, a while. I don't know how long, but I guess those are the things that come to mind. I agree with the housing thing. I have very close friends that can't find a place to live and have talked about moving, and we've convinced them otherwise, but yeah, thanks for listening, and good to see everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for the record, my name is John Sanju. I'm one of the owners of Tronstead Meadows and Whitetail Crossings. I joined the ownership group because I believe in the project. So when I hear that the fix is in, I find that somewhat offensive, and quite frankly, you should too. As I spoke to at the Planning Commission, and as many of you know, I grew up living north of Kalispell. And when I grew up there, nothing was there, really. I think that our property had one of the few street lights from reserve to the landfill. And many of the folks that spoke here tonight, or that are in opposition of this development, I mean, they're lucky that the valley has changed. Or maybe they wouldn't have a house. Because believe me, many of their houses didn't exist 10 or 20 years ago. Change is here, and it's happening whether we like it or not, and change will continue. What we can do is help guide that change, and we do that by adding more inventory and options for housing. We've heard from many of the residents about the lack of attainable housing. We've heard from employers who can't recruit and retain employees due to the lack of housing. We've heard from the parents who want their adult children to be able to stay in Kalispell, where they were raised, but they cannot because of the lack of housing. A solution is to increase single-family housing. Tronstead Meadows Whitetail Crossings will provide homes in the Flathead Valley for individuals with a goal of having homes at or below median housing pricing. To have attainable prices, we can't have 2.5 acre lots. It has to be, 2.5 acre lots is just not realistic. We have to remove restrictions that are keeping middle income professionals out of the single family housing market. Right now, we have an opportunity to build 380 more attainable single family houses to reduce the deficit of the single family housing supply, and add much needed revenue to support public safety, which we heard a lot of today, and our schools. The Flathead looks a lot different from when I grew up here, and it's going to keep changing, and I recognize it's hard for people. I really do. There is no single solution to address the high cost of housing. However, we owe it to the many middle-income families and public service professionals and businesses who are trying to maintain their workforce to take action where we can address it. We think Tronstead Meadows and Whitetail Crossing is part of that answer. I urge you to support our annexation and our zoning request, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Dominic Forbush. I just recently purchased a house in Kalispell, so I can speak very urgently on the need for affordable housing, and I put 20% down on 7% interest on a very, very starter fixer-upper home. So believe me, when I strongly understand the need for affordable housing in the Valley. That said, let's not be fooled. This isn't what this is. I would describe myself as a middle-income professional, and what you're proposing here is not going to be affordable for middle-income professionals, teachers, police departments, whatever the selling points you wanted to push were. In these conversations, people always seem to forget that there's other housing options besides single-family housing. We need houses, there's a shortage. Yeah, but like you can house the same number of people on like 15 to 20% of the land area in an apartment. Not saying that should go here. I don't like big apartments buildings as much as the next guy, but there's people moving to the Valley, and until you can figure out how to stop that, this is a way to develop more sustainably, and it's a way that's going to preserve the open spaces, the agricultural areas that give our Valley the character that we like, and probably what it sounds like a lot of you all grew up with. Everybody said a lot about the roads, the traffic, the concerns there. So I don't need to repeat myself there, but I also want to point out that the houses that are in Coil Run, like 100 yards west of this, and there's plenty of houses in Silver Brook, Silver Springs, 200 yards west of that are still for sale. So it's not that there's not houses, it's that they're not affordable houses. And it doesn't really seem like this is going to solve that problem. Finally, I just want to point out, like, it really seems like the only beneficiaries of this rezoning are going to be the developers. And it's just more and more suburban sprawl that lines their pockets, and it needs to stop at some point, or we're just going to become like another Sacramento type place, which I don't think anybody wants. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Michelle Taylor. I live at 1210 Birch Grove Road. Thanks for being here. I was at the last meeting, and my husband had told me it was a waste of time to come because the decision was already made. Well, I came anyways, just to find out what was going on. And I will say it was pretty disappointing to see that the 5 board members who were here who were going to make their recommendation to you, out of 5 of them, 4 of them hadn't even read the plans. So I found that pretty disappointing, that they were going to make a recommendation to the council without having read the plans and knowing what they're recommending to you. And I thought that was pretty unprofessional, disrespectful to the community. So I just thought, that just did kind of look a little odd when you haven't read the plans at all, but everybody's vote was yes, except for the one person who actually read the plans, which was Chad Graham. And he told us that he had read the plans and he's the one who didn't vote for it. So I find that interesting. Also, I will say one of the things that I had brought up was the schools. I have 4 kids at Edgerton Elementary. And I know apparently you guys aren't supposed to take that into consideration. I understand that. But somebody did mention that to one of the plan members here, who really quickly just said, well, I heard enrollment is down in the Valley. And that was just taken as fact. Well, enrollment's not down at Edgerton School. My kids' school classrooms are 28-1, which is just ridiculous. And we're looking to not fix these problems and just keep on expanding. So we just ask that you guys hear us out, and that this just isn't a decision that's already made, that you guys really look through and read the plans and understand them before you think about changing our livelihood. I'll speak to affordable housing. If we can't do the 2.5 acre lots, as the developer said, why can't they be altruistic and maybe sell them for a lower price? Does anybody think about that? No, not at all. They're not willing to do that. We're talking about affordable housing, but they're not willing to sell their homes for cheaper or make the lots bigger. Why? Because they want to make profit. And we all know that. They're throwing the affordable housing little string at everybody to tag along. There's plenty of housing available for sale now, and it's not affordable. The teacher spoke to opening up homes so that maybe people could buy homes downtown and something become available. Are the homes downtown affordable? No, they're not. They're not affordable to the middle income people that we're trying to help. So that's just my opinion. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Muller. I live on Tronstad Drive. I am opposed to this development, very much so. I'm not a great speaker, so I'm going to just do what I can here. I'm just respectfully asking that everyone take a step back and give this growth policy amendment some thought. It seems, I think someone else has said this, to have been rushed through very quickly and combined with the annexation and the subdivision, which I understand, I could be wrong, that it is very unusual to put it in an application with all of that all at once. So you have to question why it's being put in all at once. Is it to get it pushed through? I feel like it's spot zoning. They're talking about it being in the annex, already in that area of where the growth policy is, which I think it has a very short area from Quail Meadows only. Nothing else touches it. Quail Meadows was pushed through before any of us ever even knew about it. Never got notifications, which I think they were required to be sent to us. No one in our neighborhood got notifications. And I feel like this one is being pushed through as well. I had one of the developer representatives come knocking on my door one day, and he came inside and spoke with us and told us that the housing was going to be affordable. All the infrastructure would be done before the housing development was started. I had to leave right after he had said that. I had something to do, and he had stayed and talked to my husband. And then when I got home, we were talking about it, and I said, well, that was pretty nice, pretty cool that he came over and kind of let us know what was going on. And that night, the more I thought about it, I'm like, affordable housing. I call BS on that. I'm not cursing. I'm like, there's no way that that's going to be affordable housing with the price point that he had mentioned. Then come to find out after we did some research that the infrastructure was not going to be done prior to that either. So we've got two things that are in question that were told to us, which makes us wonder, well, what really is going on? So with that being said, once again, I just ask that if we can just take a step back, reassess, make sure everything, safety, the traffic, all the things that have been mentioned prior are good to go. What is the rush? And just take a minute. Yes, it takes some time. And if it's meant to be and they can get everything in order, it can always be done in 6 months, a year later, resubmit it. And that's all. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for hearing our complaints and the good and the bad. But I live on, my name's Ken Dunhauer, and I live on 161 Highland Drive, and it's just north of, it's the cul-de-sac just north of this subdivision. We kind of border the back of it. And I've lived there for 30 years, a little over 30 years now. And when we moved there, the farmer wasn't in there farming, didn't have his well in there. And when he put that well in, our well, which is about 230 feet, I've never had a problem with it. And when they put that well in and tested it, and ran it to the test well for, I think they ran it for, I don't know, 5 or 8 hours or something like that. And my well was the first time it ever started pulling up gravel. And ever since he started irrigating that field out there with that well, every summer, usually around August or something, sometime I start getting parts of gravel in it. So if they're going to use that well for these 380 homes, and also if the city is putting in their new well, or I think off of 93 there, and access the water, who's going to pay for our wells if they all go dry? Because all of us live out in that area and we all have wells. So I don't know if any consideration is given to all these homeowners out there about the level of that water. You know, I know housing is a big issue here, but oh my God, Silverbrook is an R2 zoned, and they want an R3 across from them. Silverbrook is laid out with access from Church Drive. You can go west, you can go east, you can go north, you can get on the highway, easy access. And then south of Silverbrook, there you can also, they have access to north or south. The east side has nothing. The structure over there is going to be a disaster, and for them to try to put in 380 plus homes in that area is ludicrous. We don't need that kind of density out in that area. If you want to develop it, develop it. At least give us something like R2, where the houses are nice, the layout is nice, and give us the access to the highway, and that road study was a farce. They should redo that, because 93 in the summer, Glacier Park, Whitefish, going north, southeast is nonstop. And that study, and it just seems like none of this stuff has been really followed through with. And I appreciate if you guys just take a little time and review these reports, because they are not accurate what they're showing. It's for the people that live in this area. I appreciate your listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Christine Hirsch. I live at 210 Tronstad, and you've heard from me before on my emails. One of the things, I hope that some of you will actually drive Tronstad, look at the area, see how narrow the road is, how unready for all that construction traffic and all the added cars on that county road. We're looking at Reserve getting widened and worked on. I've heard that Whitefish Stage, it's coming eventually to get worked on. And I don't know if you saw what happened to Tronstad during the Quail Meadows development. And it was just a 39 home, 10 acre, very dense too, but it tore up our road so much, and then they tore up so that we couldn't get out to 93. Also, I can't even imagine what's going to happen when Reserve and then Whitefish Stage and then possibly Tronstad is torn up, along with all the added cars as well, and all the construction for all the different builders that are going to build all these homes because they're only selling lots. It's a huge concern, again, that it would be rushed along, and everyone, the developers, you guys, everyone else in the city are going to be just fine, and it'll be add, I don't know, another half hour just for us to get out of our neighborhood if we even bother to try. It's just really upsetting that it's definitely in the wrong order and so dense, and they've talked about improving Tronstad. That's only the frontage of their property onto Tronstad. The whole rest of it is going to be chewed up and potholed, and it's just not going to be the best place to be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Jill Davis. I live off of Whitefish Stage, less than a mile from this proposed development. And I'm here to speak on behalf of those of us who would like to own a house one day for the first time or maybe the second time. I know people that have put off having children, big life decisions because they couldn't buy a house. And I've lost a couple coworkers because of housing. One of them moved to her husband's home state of Missouri because they wanted to buy a house and it was just too expensive here. Yeah, I have so many examples, but I'm here to represent those of us who don't get represented as much at these meetings. Usually something like this is very upsetting and emotional for the people that are affected by it the most, the neighbors. And so they organize, they didn't come out. And I get it. I get it. Some of the things they bring up are legitimate. Like, yeah, I think a traffic study should be done in the middle of the summer, not in February. So, I mean, there are some things that I can agree with, but a lot of people that live here now that are not in my backyard people, NIMBYs, they're not from here. A lot of them have moved here in the last 10 years, 15, 20 years, and now they have their house and they're good and they're fine. There's a lot of people that are not fine, and people that already live here, not people that are just waiting to move here. I mean, people that live here already. I've seen housing affect people in like all types of rentals, all types of, housing situations, and people that just want to own a house. I really enjoy where I live right now, but I've had some bad rental situations. My landlords I really like right now, but aside from having good landlord, it is really scary to have somebody affect your life so much. Like, they can decide to sell the house and, say, get out in 30 days or whatever it is. I would like to own a house again one day so that it's mine. I can do what I want with it and nobody can kick me out of it unless I don't pay the bill. But one thing I like about this development is that I read about it in the paper. I came to the planning meeting and I contacted Frank Garner because I've been learning about housing the last year and a half. And because I work 3 blocks from the city hall in Whitefish, I would just go there sometimes after work when I knew a development was going to be discussed. And I've been learning and going to nonprofit meetings. But I've noticed that there's always people that are willing to come out to fight whatever housing development it is. It doesn't matter what type it is. There's going to be people that come out and fight it, but not as many people that come out with ideas and constructive, helpful things instead of just like, no, not here because it affects me. What about many people in your lives that you don't know how housing is affecting them? There's a woman I know who has had to stay in an abusive relationship because she cannot afford housing by herself. That's just one of many horrible things that happen to people if they can't afford housing by themselves. Yeah, a lot of us, I'm a single income household. I'm not going to be able to afford a house here, but I care about couples that I know that can. And not building is not the way to get us out of the housing crisis. We have to keep building. If a lot of people are against a certain type of development, well, get involved and try to help get one built that you're okay with. I'll probably think of 10 things that I should have said whenever I walk away, but I'll just email them to you if I think of them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Anderson. I grew up on Highland. I live on Birch Grove. I know the area very, very well. That being said, all progress is not bad, neither is it good. Progress is progress. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. I disapprove and I do strongly recommend against this as it is right now. The infrastructure is not there. The transportation is not there. I leave Birch Grove taking my nephew to school every morning, and coming off of Tronstead onto Whitefish Stage is problematic at best. Frequently people are pulling out because they don't pay any attention. They don't know the areas, they don't know the road. Tronstead is not set up for the heavy vehicle or the vehicles that are going to be on it for either the construction or the people living on it. Whitefish Stage is not set up for it. The ditches, everything else are not set up for the transportation that's going to have to be on that as well. Speaking as for the water, yep, that well will drain everybody around them. It's going to drastically affect them, especially in the middle of a summer, especially if we have a particularly hot one. People are going to be without water. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Sean Olson. I'm a local developer. I have multiple properties over the valley. Addressing the low income housing, the honest truth about it is there's nothing you guys can do. This problem was started in Washington. It remains in Washington. Until we get interest rates down and inflation down, It's a farce. It's not going to happen. Those are the two things that are holding up low-income housing. That being said, it's funny that you can have a carpenter on a job site making $50 an hour in the valley. That is now a high-end earner in the valley at $50 an hour. He can have a wife. They can make maybe roughly $80,000, $90,000 a year. This development, after it's all said and done, if they get a mortgage with interest rates these days, with the taxes that are now put on these mortgages, they're going to be $4,000 easily if they have a good down payment. If they have no down payment, they're 5-6. So you tell me that goes over their net income for the year prior to even getting food, car, fuel. We do need low-income housing, but we don't need to do it at the cost of making bad mistakes going into it. We do want to do this the right way, where people do want to continue to move here and not just go, it's a nightmare. Like the other guy said, the water's going to dry up, or there's power shortages, or the road gets closed, because there's multiple roads that get closed on those roads in the winter. There's lots of drifting. How are you going to take care of 380 homes if they're blocked? What if somebody has a heart attack back there? What if there's a house on fire? You're not going to be able to get in. Tromsø got shut down. What was it? The other one that got shut down. It happens. And you don't know what road's going to get shut down. Nobody does. You put a high impact urban area in an area like that, it's just asking for trouble. It is just not ready for it. I propose either, putting a pin on this and maybe, checking this thing out in maybe 10 years where the infrastructure's moved out, or knocking it back to their original zoning of the 2.5 acres, which is more set of that urban area. It just seems like it makes more sense versus the high impact. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Frank's getting up. I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick. I need to go too. I'll wait for you. Okay, I'll go. This isn't personal.
I'm running them out of the room already. Mayor and council, my name is Frank Garner, and I live on Crestview in Kalispell. And I'm one of the owner members of Tronstead Whitetail. And I want to start this evening by first saying that I kind of want to honor the process that we're engaged in right now. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. I've heard that said somewhere before. And the reason I believe in it, and I believe in that statement, is when I look at what is in front of us right now compared to where we started, I see a better product. I see better conditions, and I'm going to talk about some of those in just a minute here. But I want to start by thanking those that have participated responsibly, regardless of their opinion, because I think this makes a more responsive project for this community, and I believe that it has open doors that will benefit, in particular, the future of this highway corridor and its users. When we started this project, our mission, we've said from the beginning, was try to capture the best and highest use of this property by providing a wide range of single-family housing options below, at, and above the median price. We've tried to answer the call for housing, more density, highest and best use, and responsible infrastructure. We've rejected the calls for 40 septics for standalone water system and $1 million houses on 2.5 acre lots. We recognize and have said from the beginning that many of the people that I had the privilege of working with and that we mention as people we hope to help are often going to be required to be two-income families. That was true in the mid-1980s when I bought my first house here, west of Kalispell, and it's still true today for many of these working families. I wish that were different, but we don't have a magic wand to allow us to produce houses cheaper than it costs to produce a house. What we can do is work with responsible builders and other partners in this community to try to provide the best product that is as attainable for them, and certainly more attainable for them than the $1 million houses that would be placed on this if we were to leave it in its current condition. So we've partnered with local working people to hear their ideas. We've partnered with established local contractors, builders, professional groups, housing advocates, all with the intent of helping to provide a reliable path for success. We've talked to the press, listened to the community, to the neighbors, to your staff, to you, in order to craft a project that will answer problems and that are consistent with solutions identified in the housing study from the U of M Flathead Valley Housing Market Analysis from last year. A study I know you have looked at in length, and I'll quote a couple of sections from it before I'm done. We've worked hard to try to solve problems, make changes as needed, and provide a development plan that covers the important details necessary to make this development an asset to the local housing market. We believe we've answered the technical and legal questions and challenges to the extent we don't believe that there is a legal or technical reason to deny the project. And we are here again tonight to say through all of that, and we appreciate this process and the improvement that it's produced. We are here tonight because we've seen the data, we recognize the need is great, and we know, like you, that the storage of housing going forward, the shortage of housing going forward will not be answered without action by you. That's why we've worked tirelessly with the city staff, with Montana Department of Transportation to produce a solution for the light at Highway 93, and I believe have come up with what is a transformational solution, one that now allows us to start work on this important safety issue immediately and proactively. Credit to those who have seen the need to start this work without delay and allow us to begin much of the work on this immediately. To that end, I would like to submit a letter that I have prepared to the city of Kalispell from our development group, committing to proceed with haste as we are allowed. It contains language consistent with the amendment adopted by the planning board intended to address the timing of this project. At the end of my remarks, I'd like to submit that to the clerk, please. We've listened with the help of the city and Department of Transportation and now be able to begin work on the intersection that otherwise might linger for another day and time. A process that I predict will also set the stage for future planning work between the city and the Department of Transportation for the entire highway corridor. We believe it will be transformational. And it's as a result of the process that we've been through. Credit to the planning department, the city staff, Department of Transportation for pressing us in this direction. We think it's a better product, better timeline, and has had much thoughtful input and process. Thank you again to all those involved with that process. I also want to recognize the input of the community, and as a result of discussions with them, we have placed in the record concessions we intend to make as part of that development process as well, to include preserving hundreds of existing border trees, not allowing more than 2 stories on houses, and contractually obligating contractors to prevent them from using access through the neighboring Ponderosa subdivision. We have provided a copy of that letter to the city for the record. We have tried to answer what we believe is a call to action from our community, one that says the only way we're going to solve a housing problem is with more houses. Part of what has been said tonight is true. Part of the reason that I am here is because people close to me are impacted by this. They've rented their entire adult life and can't afford a house. And so I've shared that story with some of the people who are in this audience tonight, the neighbors who I've talked to as we've gone through this development project in their homes and in their kitchens, and heard their concerns about how this will impact them. And I will share with you what I've shared with them is that the stories, the conversations in my kitchen sound different, because it's about whether they'll ever own a home, right? People that grew up here, served their country, came back to find that the market had changed, waiting for the market to change, and it hasn't. It probably isn't going to. And especially with the limitations on inventory, right? So the conversations in my kitchen are about whether people that were born here and grew up here will ever own a home. Ever. And so for me, that's why I got involved in this, and to try to find a way to make a portion of this housing more attainable, closer to the people than those 2.5 acre tracts and the $1 million homes would be someday to them. Doesn't solve everybody's problem. It doesn't get everybody there. It doesn't change their salaries. It doesn't do a lot of things, but it provides more opportunities to more people. I'm pretty sure you can do the math without me doing it for you. And we've heard about some of the concerns, real concerns about impacts on things like schools. And what we know is that right now the property tax that's being paid on that property as agriculture, I think is, and I believe this is accurate, is just under $600. I promise you, as those houses are built, that's going to change. It's going to be substantially more, and they're going to pay that proportional share to those schools, whether they have children in those homes or not. And if they have children and they go to school, they're going to receive an additional portion from the state. That's part of the equalization formula, right? The way for them to receive more money is for the schools, is to have people that are paying property taxes and kids that are going to school. This development will have that impact. And I'd like to say that I'm proud of the fact to stand up here with people like Myrna Terry, who I've known for a very long time, who is a local person who I trust and who I believe will do what she says she's going to do. It's one of the reasons that we're glad to be able to partner with people like her. I'll close with just a couple of things. Is first to say, and I think the speaker before was right, there's a lot of people here that are unrepresented. It's because they don't live here anymore. It's because they've had to leave here because they can't afford to live here anymore. And I hope if we get the folks online here tonight that you're going to hear from some of them, they're underrepresented as well, and can't be here to share their stories with you. So from the University of Montana study that I mentioned, I think there are a couple of things I'd like to share. And forgive me, I have to throw the glasses back on because it's an old guy font. The conclusion of these and other studies on housing supply is that substantial new supply is needed to bring the trajectories of price and rents for housing back to earth. Yet this is not the conclusion of many of the players and advocates in local politics. Two nationally represented surveys of urban and suburban residents found that many residents associated increased development of housing with increased prices and rent. And what we know from this study, and I'll summarize this because I know you're familiar with it, is it's exactly the opposite. That building is the thing that impacts the price and ends up driving prices down. Development is that thing that does that. Here's their conclusion. It is important to point out that while this report addresses housing, what is really at stake is the welfare of the people who depend on adequate, affordable, and safe housing for shelter, security, and basic needs. The low rates of home building of the last 10 years, coupled with strong attraction to Flathead County to new companies, workers, and residents, has produced an unfortunate and painful increase in the cost of housing and has placed increased pressure on many who are least able to bear it. Addressing the shortage of housing in the state's fourth largest county should be a priority of all decision-making entities with the county if the unfortunate trends that have pushed adequate housing beyond the means of many households are to be meaningfully changed. In summary, they say, to fix it, we've got to build. And so here we are. What we believe is we've offered you a plan that is highest and best use, that takes advantage of those good municipal services to provide some additional density, to give us a chance to have a little greater impact. We think we've been responsible partners. Credit to your staff and the city for working with us on developing what I think is a better plan, and the input from the neighbors and the concessions that I mentioned to you. For me, the reason I'm here is because I want the conversations in my kitchen to change, not to go on and on, not to be the same. It's not my decision, it's yours. And we'd appreciate the support, and we appreciate the good work of the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Travis Taylor. I live in Kalispell. I own property in the county and the city both. I would like to say that I am strongly opposed to the development. I agree with all the previous oppositions that have been listed thus far. I won't waste your time reiterating everything that everyone else said. One thing that has struck me as odd is that we had so much debate over the traffic light and just the timing of the traffic light, and I can't help but say I don't understand why I'm the only one wondering who wants another traffic light. We spent millions of dollars to go around the traffic lights with the bypass, and now we're all tripping over ourselves to put more lights on the same highway. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. And that should apply to, I think, everyone in the entire area, not just us that live nearby. I don't want more lights on the highway. I don't want to drive down the equivalent of Reserve Street in Missoula. I wouldn't live in Missoula for that one reason. It's horrible. How is that for business? And what's going to happen? The Costco is moving. Everyone knows that, to the north side of that intersection. That is going to be a humongous impact on the traffic. People come from Lincoln and Sanders counties, Plains, Thompson Falls, Eureka, Libby, to go to Costco and Walmart. You are drastically altering the traffic patterns around there. I don't think anyone has a real grasp of how that's going to change, because now none of those people really have to go to the north side of that intersection. They will soon, because that's what they all come for here. That's the Mecca. And I just agree that the density does not fit this neighborhood. No one that I ever heard spoke in opposition of it ever said they were against development. Every person that I met in person, online, my neighbors all said they were fine with the existing county zoning and letting the property be developed. And that seems like it would be a compromise to me. No one's saying that we need to have hands off and not build anything, but 380 homes on this plot of land is absurd to, I think, all of us. It does seem like it's being forced through. I spoke at the planning commission meeting, and I think that it wasn't planned for at all. I'm not going to make it personal, but from what I read in the plain black and white text, it didn't even meet the criteria to be approved for annexation, as far as I understood. I think that was a pretty big failure. And I guess the last thing that I'll say that I mean, it's just my honest thoughts, is I don't think that We have to all pretend that all this growth is absolutely inevitable and that we all just have to coalesce and go along with it because the forces of nature are moving. I think if the city outgrew you in the past, it's because there were people back there who sold out their neighbors for money, and that's what they're doing again. And I don't buy that we have to just automatically all go along with that. You know, if you want your kids to live here, make a place for them to live. Share your spot with them. I've got plans for my kids. I got plans for my family. I'll never leave Montana or Kalispell, and I don't think it's anybody else's responsibility to take care of me or my kids and how I'm setting that up. That's my job, and I'll make that happen for them. Thank you for listening. I do appreciate that you've given us all plenty of ample time to talk. I think there was supposed to be a 3-minute time limit usually, so. And I know you did that at the last meeting too, Mr. Graham, and we appreciate all you guys letting us be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Catherine May, and I live on Whitefish Stage. We're here tonight to talk about adapting to a growth policy, a policy that we can't take into account other ways that it might impact, like with schools that are overflowing and they're understaffed. And I understand that that's not something that we can take into consideration. It's just personal to me because I work in private education supporting the parents who don't want their kids to be stuffed into a school that is overflowing. But if we want to talk about the affordability part, teachers, police officers, firefighters, unless they're in the higher ranks, they can't afford to live in these subdivisions, in these developments. And if they can't afford to live there, they're vital to our community. And how are we going to have further growth in northern Kalispell, have EMTs that can respond in faster time if needed? Like, it's unsafe. Housing is needed. We all know that, and we're not going to get it by not building. Building's necessary. I understand that. And we've gone on and on about the lacking infrastructure and the safety issues. So I'm not going to get back into that and waste your time. I feel like those who spoke before me in opposition, that it's just simply not safe. So I just want to pose a couple questions that I hope that you'll consider in all of this, which is this the right way? Is this the right place for a development like this? Does it actually fit our growth policy? Is it beneficial to build more developments when there are already many unfinished developments and lots for sale currently? Is this the Kalispell that we want for our future generations? I don't think that the answers are black and white, but I sincerely hope that you will do the due diligence and consider them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone online? Yes. Okay.
Michelle, on the Zoom meeting, would you like to go ahead and speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Hello, Council, Mr. Mayor. My name is Michelle T. Weinberg. I am the lawyer for Sandy and Jeff Mueller, and I am here to represent them in this matter. Unfortunately, we've come across an issue that I need to bring to the council's attention that is of some importance. In your packet, you probably did see a letter from me dated April 4th, 2024, which I submitted in advance of the Kalispell Planning Commission meeting. However, I also submitted a letter on May 3rd, 2024 to publiccomment@kalispell.com. And that was not included in this packet or in the packet prior to this meeting. I did manually click through the hundreds and hundreds of pages of both packets to verify that. and I did not see it in the packet for your consideration. And of course, that is a major issue under Montana law, because you have the city has in fact excluded my client's public comment for consideration by this council on this matter, and it is a violation of Montana's open meeting laws, the Montana right to participate, and the right to know. So any approval tonight of this growth policy amendment matter would be void if reviewed by a court. It's very black and white under the law. The remedy for such violations is to void any decision approving a matter like this. So while you haven't had a chance to meaningfully consider my May 3rd letter because it was not in your packet, given the time considerations we have tonight, and it is getting late, but I do want you to have some idea of what it said. I will provide a summary of that written comment, although of course it won't be nearly as meaningful because I'm giving a summary of it in oral form rather than in written form in a comprehensive way. So again, I do represent Sandy and Jeff Mueller, and the matter tonight involves KGPA 24-01. But unfortunately, the growth policy cannot be amended as requested by KGPA 24-01, as requested by the applicant, because the requested amendment would be inconsistent with the City of Kalispell Growth Policy Planet 2035, otherwise known as the growth policy, as well as the annexation policy incorporated within the growth policy. The proposed land use actions like this, including growth policy amendments, must substantially comply with the goals, objectives, and recommendations in the growth policy under various case law, including Heffernan v. Missoula City Council. Under Heffernan, I'll quote here just briefly, the planning growth policies are still the preeminent planning tool. They are the product of extensive study, deliberation, and public comment. The final product is a well thought out, long range, detailed, and comprehensive planning document, which takes into consideration past, present, and anticipated land uses in the jurisdiction, and which is debated and adopted in an atmosphere that is free, to the extent possible, from the influence of special interests and political expedience. I also, in my letter, quoted from Ash Grove Cement Company, which I'll skip over in the interest of time, but it basically says that you can revive a master plan, but you can't do so in a piecemeal manner, which is what the applicant is asking you here to do tonight. If a plan can be amended piecemeal, the role of the plan as a comprehensive statement of community planning policies will be diluted, and the planning process may be abused. Here, the proposed growth policy amendment would be directly inconsistent with the growth policy rather than in substantial compliance with it, because the subject property lies beyond the city's annexation policy boundary, as shown on the Kalispell Growth Policy Planning Area map. It would not be within the anticipated land uses within the jurisdiction as a result, and it would result in a patchwork plan for the jurisdictional area in contravention of the law. The amendment's failure to substantially comply with the growth policy is further highlighted by the growth policy's mandate that it be updated every 5 years or sooner as needed. Since the growth policy has not been updated to include the subject property within the annexation boundary, to do so at the request of one developer would be an unlawful piecemeal attempt to undercut the growth policy. As explained in my client's comment to the Planning Commission, it is also worth noting, reiterating that while the staff report recommends approval based on the provision of housing contained in the growth policy for all sectors and income levels in the community, this development will not provide affordable housing. Excuse me, I'm getting my notes together. It does nothing to address the issue of affordable housing shortages in Montana or in Kalispell in particular, because any new housing units created as a result of this development will be market rate housing, not deed restricted for affordability. Indeed, the Montana legislature has in fact prohibited such local measures requiring housing affordability. And that law, now codified at 76.2.114 and 76.3.514, prohibits a local government body like yourself from adopting a resolution under this part that includes a requirement to dedicate real property for the purpose of providing housing for specified income levels or at specified sales prices. I will note that Mr. Garner served on the legislature during that legislative session and voted for that bill. According to the applicant, as explained in a recent meeting with community members, the price point for the quote affordable housing in this development would be at least $550,000, which of course, as many people have testified to, would not be affordable. Therefore, approval of the applications based on the promise of affordable housing would be unlawful because no such housing would materialize. The proposed amendment is also inconsistent with numerous other goals, objectives, and recommendations in the growth policy included within Chapter 3, Chapter 5, Chapter 8, and Chapter 9 of the growth policy. By way of example and not limitation, the proposed amendment does not complement the community values of creating walkable and bikeable neighborhoods, nor integrate new development into the surrounding neighborhood. That would be Chapter 3, Goal 1. Because the developer is proposing to create 380 lots on 110.5 acres in a rural residential area, thus increasing vehicle traffic that will be inconsistent with pedestrian and bicycle use. The proposed amendment will also not recognize and uphold the general welfare of the community, nor enhance adjacent streets. That's Chapter 3, Goals 2 and 4 of the growth policy, because the increase in traffic will endanger public health and safety and will result in further congestion of Tronstad Road and Whitefish Stage Road. The proposed amendment also does not enhance natural resource values, preserve agricultural lands, or protect water quality and safety. That would be Chapter 5, Goals 1, 3, 4, 5, and 9, and Chapter 9, Goal 7. Because the proposed development will convert the property's current agricultural use to residential use and will result in the potential water contamination of nearby wells. Finally, the proposed amendment will not provide a safe, efficient, accessible, and cost-effective transportation system. That's Chapter 8, Goal 1, because the proposed development will result in the further congestion of Tronstad Road and Whitefish Stage Road, and there is no guarantee of an additional traffic signal on Highway 93. For these reasons, and because of the violations of the right to participate, right to know, and the open meeting laws, my clients respectfully request that the council deny the applicant's request for the proposed growth policy amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Zach, you can go ahead and proceed.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'd like to thank you for holding this public meeting for many of us to come in and voice our opinions and concerns. One of the things that Representative Gardner spoke of is the unrepresentative. And so I'd like to say that includes me, unfortunately. My wife and I and family moved into the Flathead Valley back in 1999. And being part of the valley, I've been a firefighter in the valley for the 23 years that we lived in the Flathead Valley. Also served a few years as a reserve officer with Flathead County Sheriff's Department, and worked at the local hospital as well. And what really drove my entire family out of the valley was the cost of housing and the lack of homes as well. My oldest daughter, Caitlin, and my youngest daughter, Megan, both attended Flathead Valley High School, the Flathead High School. And My oldest daughter ended up going into the Navy or Air Force for 6 years. And the youngest ended up at the University of Montana. And after each one of those, they were hoping to return back to the Valley. And they both had children at the time. And they were hoping to return, but could not because of the realized cost of housing and the fact that there was no housing even available for them at the time. So through the years there, my wife and I also felt the pinch. And, we gave up, I believe, or I'd like to think that we gave up several opportunities to better ourselves, by potentially moving out of the Valley and taking a more higher paying job, or even a lower area of housing cost. We chose to stay in the Valley because we love the Valley and we love the people. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention and just let you know that, that we do need more affordable housing in the Valley. And would like to thank you again for your time tonight. And, like I did mention, we did leave the Valley. It is 11:40 here where I'm located now, but still love the Valley and wish the best for Representative Sanju and Frank Gardner's desire for better housing. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Mary Flowers, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Mary Flowers with Citizens for a Better Flathead, 135 South Main in Kalispell. And I want to really commend the public, both at the planning board and at this hearing, for really raising a lot of important and challenging issues that you as a council need to grapple with. I did email in a written comment here, but I want to make two points this evening at this late hour yet. And I think one of those is that you have, as a council, a legal obligation to review your finding of facts and incorporate within a new and revised staff report before you make a final decision the public comments that have been made, many technical, many very substantive, many very practical. They need to be considered and weighed against the finding of facts that are currently before you right now to show that you have given meaningful consideration to the concerns of the public and looked at how you can mitigate and address those concerns effectively, be it through conditions or decisions about whether or not this is the appropriate time to approve this development. Additionally, we would urge that you pause this decision-making process, for which there's no deadline, as we understand that this process has to meet like a subdivision would. And we would challenge you as a community to sit down and really look at the possibility of working with an entity like the Northwest Community Land Trust to find a way to put some of the ground rights to the property where this housing is being proposed, to put it in a trust which can benefit the developer and can benefit the eventual house owner because they can purchase a much more affordable, permanently deed restricted home. We think that simply building more houses has not resulted in the affordability that is so needed. And we really need to take a new perspective on how we're going to come with this challenge. the legislature has tied our hands in unacceptable ways. And we believe that as a city, you need to work with your developers and with your residents to really look at how can we guarantee that part of this development, if it moves forward, is going to meet true affordability standards. And again, I think there are critical infrastructure issues and detailed reports. You've got Rick Nye's transportation study. You've got Michelle Weinberg's looking at the technical aspects of compliance with the growth policy. You've got people like Kobe Shaw who raised a lot of interesting issues. So within this, I really encourage you to complete your duty to have your planning staff go through, summarize the planning, the public comment, and show how they've incorporated it into the findings and conditions that are being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan, you can go ahead and proceed.
Hi, this is Joan Ehrenberg. I live off of Whitefish Stage. Hello to the Honorable Mayor and City Councilor. I really appreciate you letting us hang on here and speak and have this extensive public hearing. I've dug many people out of the ditches of Whitefish Stage. I've felt like I was going to have a heart attack riding a bicycle on Whitefish Stage, even though it is a pedestrian bike route with its 1 inch or 2 inch shoulder. I was there the day that a young father fell off of Whitefish Stage in his gravel truck and died. It's a dangerous road. Tronsted's a dangerous road. And just putting a stoplight on the worst interstate in the country, Highway 93, is not going to solve the problem of too many people out in a rural agricultural community. You're completely changing the character of this neighborhood. Our schools are overloaded. We don't have teachers, and we can't pass a school bond. So, there's just lots of levels of this is just not the right thing. I also have quite a big concern that if you go to www.tronstedandwhitedale.com, this project is being advertised for sale. And it hasn't been approved. And there's a lot of people that are concerned about what's happening to our valley, and their voices should be listened to before this project is put forward. There's no guarantees for anything affordable. The median listing home price as of April 2024 in Flathead County is $799,000. That's not affordable housing. That's not something a teacher or firefighter can get. The rural firefighters can't get here. Having one route out for 380 homes and 1,000 to 1,300 people is a little crazy to me. I just really urge you to slow down, take a look at all the comments, and come to a better solution with some more guarantees for what the developer says they're going to do. If they're going to do affordable, then go put in some Northwest Community Land Trust land and make it a guarantee that it's affordable, not a promise, because we know promises from developers. The other, we all know Frank. Frank's a good guy. Great. But the developer has 3 offices in Tennessee and Alabama and a foreign limited liability company and Nevada. There's a lot of money behind this because there's a lot of money to be made. And we don't have to lose the character of the land and the area that we have grown to love. I've lived here for 33 years and a lot of people have, and Doesn't matter how long you live here, you love this place. And it's up to us to honor what the character of our community. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Would anyone else online like to provide public comment? Please raise your hand. All right, I think we're good.
Okay, anyone else out in the audience? Going, gone. I'm going to close the public hearing. I want to remind everybody we are not acting tonight. All of the emails that we did receive come in when you send a public comment at kalispell.com, come directly to every council person. It's our obligation, our duty to read those emails and incorporate those. Staff has all those emails. So this was part of the blue sky laws in Montana, was taking this comment. We're not acting tonight. I want to make that perfectly clear. Mr. Russell?
Yeah, just for clarification, whenever you have something that comes from the planning board, that's always included in the planning board packet because the planning board doesn't have the access to the emails that come through the public comment at kalispell.com like the council does. Council receives all those emails. The reason we keep those emails that went to the planning board was that was part of the record from the planning board, so we don't modify that record. You get all those emails that come through. They're all there. They're all present. There's an open meeting tonight. There was no restriction of anyone's right to participate, as we heard. You get all those through there. Those comments are there. But that's why we don't include those, because the packets you get are staff reports, not public reports on staff items.
So just like to clarify that, because one of those things, we're very transparent and we grab the data at this council. Okay, with that closed, we're now going to move on to, oh wait, public comment on items not on the agenda this evening. So this is the free-for-all moment for the council to hear from the public. Please step forward, state your name, and give your comments. Mr. Roundtree, good to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Roundtree, Walter Roundtree, east side of Kalispell. So at the work session, the work session was about possibly reconsidering to take action on the warming center's conditional use permit. Surprise, I have more to say on that. Mr. Russell gave us a good overview of the formal requirements for taking action on the CUP. I'd like to talk a little bit about informal guidelines about that. What I have to say about that is necessarily simplistic and laughably incomplete, but here we go. So what about rescinding a conditional use permit if, well, they haven't all left. If the applicant at the original hearing knowingly and intentionally presented misinformation to the council with the intent of misleading the council, then by all means wad that permit up and throw it in the trash. The bar for that should be something like a reasonable suspicion that they were willfully and knowledgeably misleading. But it shouldn't be something like beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's because they could obviously simply reapply for the conditional use permit and try to be a better human being about it the second time. As far as amending a conditional use permit, if an entity is creating problems in the community, knows what those problems are, and has the power reasonably to help with those problems, but isn't doing anything about them, then maybe, yeah, amend that conditional use permit. If, however, they know about the problems, they're problems that they can reasonably be expected to do something about, and they're just being ineffective at it, they're trying, but they're just doing a bad job, then instead of amending the conditional use permit, maybe work with them informally to help them do a better job at addressing those problems. But the bar for revisiting a conditional use permit should be pretty high. If in 2020 hindsight you decide that maybe you voted wrong, you would have changed, voted differently if you knew now what you knew, if you knew then what you know now, that's a dangerous precedent to set. It allows any council in the future to decide that they wouldn't have approved that conditional use permit. So please don't set that particular precedent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. Good evening, council members. My name is Kimberly Scheck-Snyder, and I reside at 3 Fifth Avenue West. I would like to discuss the ongoing safety hazard and the potential for a fatal accident from the speeding vehicles out of Kalispell Center Mall onto 5th and Center Street. I have resided at my residence for over 8 years, and I've noticed the increased reckless driving by a specific group of vehicles. I am worried that a child will get hit or severely injured or killed. I personally witnessed 2 adolescents nearly hit while using the east crosswalk at the light on 5th and Center. I have had vehicles hit my front fence that is close to the stoplight and the light post next to my driveway. I am terrified to allow my child to play in the front yard. My child has a bedroom wall that is next to Center Street, and I have his bed as far from the wall as possible. I have done everything I could to keep my child safe. I have only called dispatch to request extra patrols along 5th and Center Street. I have never called the police on the people hanging out at the mall. However, since I spoke to an officer on May 10th, begging to see if we could have more patrols to work overtime, I have started to get harassed. But that's just what happens. They think I called the cops on them. I want to thank the officer for hearing my pleas, and on May 14th, I spoke with Chief Venenzio, and I was informed the police department is aware of how crazy my streets get after an official Kalispell cruise. But if they have extra units on the street for the next 2 Fridays, it quiets down. It was also brought to my attention that the police department does not know when an official cruise happens. My question to you is why was, I don't know who I'm talking to, why there was only a couple of units out on Friday, May 10th. On May 3rd, I saw so many units from the police, sheriff to the highway patrolman. That date was an official cruise. I have no idea how this past Friday was because I took my family, we got out of town. May I suggest that someone contacts Kalispell Cruise Cruise Kalispell at cruisekalispell.com? In no way am I blaming our wonderful nonprofit Cruise Kalispell or our police department. I know you guys are stretched thin. I'm doing my part to keep my neighborhood safe. I know how hard it is, how horrible it is. I understand the mall is private property and I have tried to deal with them. I'm going to go a different route with them. But how they drive onto 5th and Center makes it a city problem. With summer approaching and with the new silo apartments, there are going to be many children walking along the streets in my neighborhood. Does one of them have to be hit before something is done? You guys are all welcome to come to my house on a Friday or Saturday so you can witness yourself what I deal with. I usually just stay inside, but thank you guys so much, and God bless.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, we're gonna move on to our 24 action items. Just kidding, guys, just kidding. Fortunately, we have one. It's Resolution 6196, resolution of intent to call for public hearing on a proposed solid waste master plan adjustment increases to the solid waste assessment and solid waste code updates, Chapter 11, garbage, refuse, and weeds. This resolution considers setting a public hearing date for June 17, 2024, to hear from the public on these items. Mr. Russell?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as you just mentioned, this is just setting a public hearing with a resolution of intent. However, I will turn it over to Director of Public Works Susie Turner because we will be making one amendment in the publication just with an omission. So Susie, if you just want to touch on that really quick.
Yeah, good evening, Your Honor and council members. For the proposed Chapter 11 update in Section 11-9, bulk waste and special residential collection under A.2, that section discusses the frequency of the collection for the bulk waste. For the commercial bulk collection, I neglected to define that service was for multifamily. I put commercial instead of, I didn't define that it was for multifamily. We never intended to provide bulk waste hauling or service for other than multifamily in that section. So I apologize for my neglect to add that into that section, but I'll be sending out an updated version, adding in multifamily through that one section in there. And that'll also be published correctly in all the information for the public to see. And that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Any public comment on the resolution of intent to call for a public hearing? Motion?
Trying to get there.
You guys remember how to read? Oh, Ms. Gabriel?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would recommend that council adopt the resolution calling for a public hearing on June 17th, 2024 for the proposed solid waste master plan, solid waste assessment judgments, and solid waste code updates.
With the amendment as described?
With the amendment as described by Ms. Turner.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Have a roll call vote?
Counselor Gabrielle?
Aye.
Counselor Graham?
Aye.
Counselor Dowd?
Aye.
Counselor Dahlman?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Aye.
Counselor Hunter?
Aye.
Counselor Nunley?
Aye.
Counselor Carlson?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
Aye. Motion carries. City manager report, Mr. Russell.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just two items. Next week's work session is on Tuesday, the 28th, because of Memorial Day. One of the things we'll be receiving is a presentation on an adjacent landowner on Meridian along the trails. It's one we've talked about and kind of been waiting, we've been looking forward to, acquiring that white parcel, which I notified BNSF, we're ready to close in June. We had to redo the environmental, and we should be ready to close. But nonetheless, the adjacent property owner is going to move forward with or without that white tract parcel. But what they want to do is create open space and eventually deed it over to the city with potentially an endowment for the future maintenance of it. Would be enhanced with the white tract parcel as well. But we'll at least hear that presentation next Tuesday at the start of the meeting, just to get an idea, kind of outline some potential next steps. Hopefully we hear from BNSF within the next week and can confirm a closing date. So have that. We'll also, on next week's agenda, have the follow-up portion at the work session last week. It was discussed to take public hearing, then reconvene, to have that discussion on whether council wants to go forward with the next step, which would be a formal hearing where we'd present any of the concerns that have been expressed in relation to that original CUP. And the last thing to talk about is send out an email that we'll be meeting with officials from Belgrade. They want to pick our brains on the levy and process, and I think it'd be great if we'd have a council member come in and out, even if it's for an hour or two, or invite for the whole day, but just, I think it'd be good for them, for council to share their experience of, you know, the thought process and some of the things we went through. So if you're interested in that, just let me know, and kind of maybe schedule some times that may be convenient. I know it's hard to break away from a full day, but if someone wants to break away even for an hour, that'd be great, just to share information with representatives from Belgrade as they're looking at undergoing a similar levy process. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything from council? No? 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 I've got so many things, but I'm gonna call it good because what I have to say tonight can wait till next week, so. With that, we're adjourned.